Hello guys, welcome to Fictional Vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto was the one-for-all successor who unlocked all quirks instantly. Naruto X Midnight, My Hero Academia. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, Worlds Collide. The sky tore open like wet paper. 1 second Naruto was in the middle of an all-out brawl with some freaky shadow-manipulating ninja, and the next he was plummeting through swirling colors that definitely weren't part of any jutsu he recognized. What the hell? Naruto shouted, his voice swallowed by the howling dimensional vortex. He tumbled end over end, orange jumpsuit flapping wildly as he tried and failed to stabilize himself. The kaleidoscope tunnel suddenly vanished, and Naruto crashed face-first onto solid pavement. Ow! Son of a, he pushed himself up, spitting out a mouthful of dirt. Where am I? Sakura? Kakashi-sensei? No answer. Just the unfamiliar sounds of a bustling city around him. Naruto jumped to his feet, instinctively dropping into a defensive stance as he took in his surroundings. This definitely wasn't the Hidden Leaf Village. Towering glass buildings stretched toward the sky, bizarre vehicles zipped along paved streets, and people in strange clothes walked past, some with physical features so weird they'd make the most exotic Kekii Genkai users look boring. Did I get sucked into some kinda genjutsu? Naruto muttered, forming a hand sign. Release. Nothing changed. A woman with purple skin and horns stared at him before hurrying away. A kid whose fingers had turned into tiny mouths was pointing at him excitedly. Oi! What are you all looking at? Naruto shouted, drawing even more attention. Naruto felt the chakra in his system, but it felt different. More resistant. Like trying to mold clay that had partially dried out. He attempted to create a shadow clone, and while it worked, it took way more effort than usual. Something's definitely off, he said to his clone, who nodded back with the same confused expression. A thunderous crash interrupted his thoughts. About a block away, screams erupted as a massive figure smashed through the wall of a building. Naruto didn't hesitate. Weird world or not, people in trouble meant he needed to act. He dispelled his clone and sprinted toward the commotion, leaping onto a light post for a better view. The scene was chaos. A hulking man with skin like concrete was rampaging through what looked like a bank. His massive fists punched through walls while terrified civilians fled. 3 people in colorful costumes, were trying to contain him. Is this some kind of festival? Naruto wondered aloud. Then he watched as a woman stretched her arms to impossible lengths and a man shot what looked like tape from his elbows. The concrete man roared, "No hero's gonna take me in today." He grabbed a car and hurled it toward a group of frozen bystanders. Naruto moved without thinking. His hands formed the familiar cross sign, and despite the strange resistance, he created 5 shadow clones. They dispersed instantly, 2 catching civilians and pulling them to safety, while 3 others, including the original, intercepted the flying car. Rasengan! Naruto shouted, the swirling ball of chakra forming in his palm. He slammed it into the vehicle, deflecting its trajectory into an empty area. The costumed people, heroes, stared at him in shock. Kid! That's some quirk you've got, the tape-shooting hero called out. You registered? Registered? What are you talking about? Naruto shouted back, landing on the street. The concrete villain took advantage of the distraction. Another wannabe brat, he bellowed, charging straight at Naruto. Naruto smirked. Whatever this place was, a fight was a fight. Let's see what you've got, rock face. The villain swung a massive fist. Naruto ducked under it easily, years of combat instincts kicking in. He jumped. Planted both feet on the villain's chest, and pushed off, landing a dozen meters away. Stand back, civilian, the stretchy-armed woman shouted. Unauthorized quirk use is, lady, I don't know what a quirk is, but I know how to fight. Naruto shot back, forming more shadow clones. The clones surrounded the villain, who looked increasingly confused. What the, multiplying brat? One clone delivered a sweeping kick to the villain's legs while another leapt onto his back. The original Naruto charged forward, ready to deliver a finishing blow. But before he could, a booming voice echoed through the street. Have no fear, for I am here. A blur of motion, a gust of wind, and suddenly the concrete villain was flat on the ground, a mountain of muscle in a colorful costume standing over him with a triumphant smile. All Might, the crowd cheered. Naruto stared up at the massive hero. The man was built like a tank, with a physique that would make Gai-sensei jealous, and that smile, it radiated pure confidence. Well done, young man. All Might boomed, turning to Naruto. Quick thinking and impressive abilities. Though you should leave villain capture to the pros, his words cut off as he looked more closely at Naruto. Something flashed across his face, recognition. Surprise? Naruto couldn't tell. You're not from around here, are you? All Might asked, his voice suddenly quieter. Naruto dispersed his remaining clones. You could say that. I'm Naruto Uzumaki from the Hidden Leaf Village, and I have no idea where I am or how I got here. All Might's smile didn't falter, but his eyes sharpened with interest. I see. Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere less public. Police arrived to take the villain into custody while the other heroes handled crowd control. All Might placed a massive hand on Naruto's shoulder. Come with me, young Uzumaki. I believe we have much to discuss. Wait, I need answers, Naruto started. And you'll get them, All Might assured him. But first, we need to understand what we're dealing with. Your abilities are unlike any quirk I've seen. Before Naruto could protest further, All Might scooped him up. Hold on tight. What are you, Wah? All Might launched into the air with Naruto, bounding across buildings at incredible speed. Despite his years of ninja training, Naruto found himself clinging to the hero in genuine surprise at the raw power in each jump. They landed on a secluded beach, trash piled high around them. All Might set Naruto down gently. Alright, now we can talk freely, the hero said. First, welcome to Muzutafu, Japan. Japan? Never heard of it, Naruto said, crossing his arms. Is this another continent or something? All Might's perpetual smile faltered slightly. Young man, I believe you may have come from somewhere much further than that. For the next hour, they exchanged information. All Might explained the basics of this world, quirks, heroes, the society built around them. In turn, Naruto described the ninja villages, chakra, and the battle that had somehow sent him here. So this dimensional villain you were fighting, Kazuma, you called him, he has the ability to create rifts between worlds? All Might asked. Yeah, but I never thought he'd actually manage to send me to a whole different reality, Naruto replied, kicking at the sand. I gotta find a way back. My friends need me. All Might nodded thoughtfully. We'll do everything we can to help you return home, young Uzumaki. But until then, a sudden cough interrupted him. To Naruto's shock, a plume of steam erupted around All Might's massive form. When it cleared, a skeletal, hollow-cheeked man stood in the hero's place, blood trickling from his mouth. What the? Naruto jumped back, kunai instantly in hand. Who are you? Where's All Might? The skeletal man wiped the blood from his lips. I am All Might. This is my true form. He lifted his shirt, revealing a horrific wound on his side. 5 years ago, I sustained this injury fighting a villain. Now I can only maintain my hero form for about 3 hours a day. Naruto lowered his kunai, eyes wide. But you're the #1 hero, right? How do you fight like that? With great difficulty, All Might, or rather Toshinori Yagi, said with a pained smile. And that's partially why I wanted to speak with you privately. He sat on a cleared patch of sand, gesturing for Naruto to join him. There's something special about you, young Uzumaki. I felt it the moment I saw you fight. This chakra you describe, it's different from Quirks, yet there are similarities. Naruto sat cross-legged across from him. Yeah, but it feels weird here. Like it's harder to use. Different worlds, different rules, Toshinori nodded. But you adapted instantly. That speaks to your potential. Something in his tone made Naruto pay closer attention. I have a power called One for All, Toshinori continued. It's a quirk that can be passed from person to person, growing stronger with each user. I've been searching for a worthy successor. And you want me? Naruto asked incredulously. But I'm not even from your world. Perhaps that's exactly why you're perfect, Toshinori said. One for All isn't just raw power, it's heart, determination, the drive to help others. You jumped into danger without hesitation to save strangers. He leaned forward. I've been watching several potential candidates, including a young man named Izuku Midoriya. But your arrival, it feels like fate. Naruto scratched his head. I don't get it. I already have my own powers. That's what makes this interesting. One for All has merged with different quirks before, but never with something like your chakra. The possibilities could be extraordinary. Naruto stood, pacing. Look, I appreciate the offer, but I need to focus on getting home. And we will pursue that, Toshinori assured him. But while you're here, you'll need a place in this society. Without proper credentials, your abilities make you a vigilante, that's illegal here. So what, I can't use my jutsu to help people? Naruto demanded. Not without proper authorization. But as my successor, training at UA High School, our premier hero academy, you'd have the freedom to develop your abilities and use them legally. Naruto paused. It made sense in a weird way. And this power would help me fight better. Toshinori nodded. One for All might also interact with your chakra in ways that could help us understand how to get you home. Naruto looked out at the ocean, thinking of everyone back in the leaf. Sakura, Kakashi-sensei, even that bastard Sasuke, they probably had no idea where he was. If I take this power, Naruto asked, will it help me protect people here while I figure out how to get back? Without question. Then I'll do it, Naruto decided. But don't expect me to stick around forever. I've got my own world to save. Toshinori smiled, a hint of his heroic confidence returning to his gaunt face. I wouldn't have it any other way, young Uzumaki. He plucked a strand of hair from his head. To inherit my power, you need to consume some of my DNA. Naruto's face scrunched up. EW. That's how you transfer powers. That's way grosser than chakra training. Despite everything, Toshinori laughed. Just eat the hair. Grimacing, Naruto took the strand and swallowed it quickly. Now what? Now we wait. It should take about 3 hours to digest and, a sudden pulse of energy erupted from Naruto, knocking Toshinori back. Golden light mixed with blue chakra erupted from the young ninja's body, swirling around him like twin tornadoes. What's happening? Naruto shouted, his voice distorted by the energy. Toshinori stared in shock. It's too soon. The power shouldn't activate yet. The light grew blinding. Naruto felt like his cells were being ripped apart and reassembled. Within his mind, he saw flashes, 7 silhouettes, each distinct, each powerful. And then, as suddenly as it started, the energy collapsed inward. Naruto dropped to his knees, gasping. Young Uzumaki. Toshinori rushed to his side. Are you alright? Naruto looked up, his blue eyes briefly flashing with golden light. That was intense. I saw people, other users. Toshinori nodded, bewildered. The past wielders of One for All. But you shouldn't have connected with them so quickly. It took me months to feel their presence. Naruto stood, flexing his fingers. Something feels different. My chakra, it's like it's mixing with something new. He formed a shadow clone instinctively, and both he and Toshinori gasped. The clone was outlined in crackling green lightning. Full cowling, Toshinori whispered. A manifestation technique that usually takes months to develop. And you've done it instantly. Naruto released the clone, then experimentally channeled chakra to his feet. He leapt upward, and shot nearly 50 meters into the air. "Whoa!" he yelled, flailing before managing to land roughly on a pile of trash. That was awesome. Toshinori watched, mind racing. Your chakra must have accelerated the integration process. One for all usually takes time to adapt to a new user, but you've bypassed that entirely. Naruto grinned, the rush of power exhilarating. So I can use all this quirk stuff now? It appears so. But that makes it even more critical that you learn to control it properly. Toshinori pulled out his phone. I need to make some calls. We need to get you into UA immediately, under special circumstances. As Toshinori arranged things, Naruto practiced. Each time he used the one for all power, it felt more natural, more integrated with his chakra. But something else was happening too, flickers of completely different abilities that weren't just enhanced strength or speed. At one point, black tendrils briefly emerged from his hand before he lost concentration. Another time, he felt intense heat gather in his palm, almost like a fire-style jutsu but fundamentally different. I think I can use more than just your powers, Naruto called to Toshinori, who was finishing his calls. The former symbol of peace looked up sharply. What do you mean? Watch this. Naruto concentrated, focusing on one of the silhouettes he'd seen. His arms suddenly became shrouded in darkness that extended outward like a whip. Black whip, Toshinori whispered in disbelief. That was the quirk of the fifth user. The darkness disappeared as Naruto lost focus. There's more, I can feel them. 6 other quirks besides yours. Toshinori sat heavily on a discarded refrigerator. This is unprecedented. One for all contains the quirks of all past users, but they've always been dormant. I've never been able to access them. Maybe it's because of my chakra. Naruto suggested, creating another shadow clone to experiment. Perhaps, Toshinori agreed. Your energy system seems to have catalyzed something that might have taken years to happen naturally, if ever. He checked his watch. The principal has agreed to meet us. He's assembling some of the UA faculty as well. More heroes? Naruto asked, unable to hide his excitement despite the seriousness of the situation. Yes, and one in particular who will be essential in helping you adjust. Toshinori stood, transforming back into his muscular form in a burst of steam. Come, young Uzumaki. Your new journey begins now. UA High School looked more like a fortress than any academy Naruto had ever seen. Massive gates, security systems, an imposing architecture that made the Hokage's office seem modest by comparison. All Might led him through security checkpoints where Naruto received temporary credentials, then through winding hallways to a large conference room. Inside waited an eclectic group. A small white creature. Man. Mouse. Sat at the head of the table. Beside him was a man who appeared to be made entirely of cement, another wrapped in what looked like a sleeping bag, and a tall, sleek woman in a revealing outfit that made Naruto blush instantly. Ah, All Might, the small creature spoke in a surprisingly high voice. This must be our dimensional visitor. Principal Nizu, All Might greeted. Yes, this is Naruto Uzumaki from the Hidden Leaf Village. Nizu hopped from his chair and approached Naruto, examining him with intelligent eyes. Fascinating. And you've already passed one for all to him? That was precipitous. It was, All Might agreed, but circumstances demanded swift action. And the results have been beyond anything we could have anticipated. As they all took seats, All Might explained what had happened at the beach. The faculty listened with varying degrees of shock and skepticism. Instant access to the vestiges and their quirks, the cement man, who Naruto learned was Cementos, said doubtfully. That should be impossible. So should traveling between dimensions, countered the sleeping bag man, who had introduced himself as Shota Aizawa. Yet here we are. The woman, Namuri Kayama, hero named Midnight, hadn't taken her eyes off Naruto since he entered. Her gaze wasn't just curious, it was analytical, assessing. Let's see it, then, she said suddenly, cutting through the discussion. Show us what you can do, Uzumaki. Naruto stood, slightly annoyed at her tone but eager to prove himself. Alright, but maybe we should go somewhere with more space. I don't want to wreck your fancy meeting room. Midnight smirked. Confident, aren't you? Training ground beta is available, Nizu suggested. It's designed to withstand significant quirk usage. Minutes later, they stood in what looked like a simulated city block. Naruto whistled appreciatively. You build fake cities just for training? That's pretty awesome. UA spares no expense in hero education, Nizu explained. Now, please demonstrate these abilities. Naruto nodded, taking a deep breath. He'd been practicing focusing the new power, trying to integrate it with his chakra. First, the basics. He channeled one for all through his system, and green lightning crackled around his body. With a light jump, he soared 30 meters upward and landed on top of a building. Impressive control already, All Might called up approvingly. That's nothing, Naruto grinned. He formed his signature hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 20 clones appeared around him, all crackling with the same energy. Aizawa's eyes widened slightly. Self-duplication at that scale with each copy maintaining the enhanced power. Naruto didn't stop there. He concentrated on one of the quirks he'd felt earlier. His hand thrust forward, and a wave of black energy whips shot out, wrapping around a nearby water tower. Black Whip, All Might confirmed for the others. Next, Naruto focused on another presence he'd sensed. His body began to glow, and suddenly he was hovering several inches off the ground. Float, Midnight identified. That was Nana Shimura's quirk. Naruto cancelled that ability and concentrated on another. His vision suddenly expanded dramatically, allowing him to see details blocks away. I can see inside the main building from here, he called down. There's someone with purple hair eating lunch alone in a classroom. That would be danger sense combined with enhanced perception, All Might explained. 2 more vestiges. For the finale, Naruto prepared his signature technique. Rasengan, he shouted, forming the swirling ball of chakra. But this time, it was larger, infused with One for All's power, crackling with green energy. He slammed it into an abandoned car, which not only disintegrated but created a small crater in the ground. Landing back in front of the faculty, Naruto couldn't help feeling a little smug at their expressions. That's 5 of the 8 quirks already, All Might said, both impressed and concerned. Plus your original abilities. Aizawa stepped forward. Let me try something. His eyes glowed red, his hair floating upward. Naruto felt his connection to One for All suddenly vanish. Hey! What did you do? My quirk, Erasure, temporarily nullifies others' quirks, Aizawa explained. I can affect One for All, but... He frowned. Your other abilities remain intact. To demonstrate, Naruto created a standard shadow clone, no green lightning this time. My chakra works differently than your quirks. It's not something you can erase. Aizawa released his quirk, and One for All's power instantly flowed back into Naruto. Fascinating. 2 entirely separate power systems coexisting and interacting. Principal Nizu cleared his throat. This confirms our approach. You'll need specialized training far beyond our standard curriculum, Uzumaki-san. I still need to find a way home, Naruto reminded them. This power's great and all, but I have responsibilities in my world. We understand, Nizu nodded. We've already contacted government agencies about the dimensional incident. They're investigating the area where you arrived for any anomalies or traces that might help. In the meantime, Midnight spoke up, stepping closer to Naruto, you'll need a supervisor. Someone to guide your training and help you adjust to our world. Her smile had an edge that made Naruto swallow nervously. I volunteer for that duty, Principal. Nizu considered this. You do have experience with power regulation and control techniques, Midnight. Very well. Wait, her. Naruto pointed. But she's what? Midnight's voice dropped dangerously, though her smile remained. Nothing, Naruto backpedaled quickly. Just, wondering if you can handle my awesome power, that's all. Midnight laughed, the sound both melodic and slightly intimidating. Oh, I think you'll find I can handle quite a lot, Uzumaki. All Might coughed. Midnight is one of our most capable faculty members. Her expertise in quirk control will be invaluable. Fine, Naruto conceded. But I'm telling you now, I'm a quick learner, so try to keep up. Instead of being offended, Midnight looked even more amused. Confidence. I like that. We'll see how long it lasts. As the group walked back toward the main building, Aizawa fell into step beside Naruto. Word of warning, kid. Midnight earned her hero name. She'll work you until you drop. I trained with Pervy Sage for 3 years, Naruto shot back. I can handle anything. Pervy Sage? Midnight asked from ahead, proving her hearing was excellent. My old master, Naruto explained. Jiraiya of the Sannin. Great ninja, total pervert. Wrote dirty books and everything. To his surprise, Midnight looked intrigued rather than disgusted. A man of culture, then. All Might interrupted hastily. Let's discuss living arrangements. Young Uzumaki will need accommodation near campus. The dormitories are not yet complete, Nizu mused. We would need somewhere secure, considering his unique situation. I have a guest apartment in my building, Midnight offered. It would allow for easier supervision. Naruto's eyes widened. Wait, you want me to live with you? Near me, Midnight corrected, though her smile suggested she was enjoying his discomfort. The apartment has separate access. I'll only be checking to ensure you're not causing trouble. All Might looked uncertain. Is that appropriate? He's not technically a student yet, Midnight pointed out. And I am a professional hero. Unless you're suggesting I can't maintain proper boundaries, All Might? No, All Might backpedaled. Just considering all angles. Then it's settled, Nizu concluded. Midnight will oversee Uzumaki-san's training and accommodation until more permanent arrangements can be made. As they continued discussing details, Naruto found himself studying Midnight more carefully. Beyond her provocative costume and teasing manner, there was a sharpness in her eyes, a confidence in her movements that reminded him of the kunoichi back home. She wasn't just playing at being dangerous, she was dangerous. That thought was both intimidating and, strangely, reassuring. Midnight's apartment building was in an upscale district not far from UA. The guest apartment turned out to be a small but modern studio on the floor below her own, accessible via both the main building entrance and a separate side door. This is where you'll stay, she explained, unlocking the door. Basic amenities, security system, and close enough that I can respond if there's trouble. Naruto looked around the apartment, impressed despite himself. It was cleaner and more modern than his place back in Konoha. Not bad, he admitted, dropping his small pack of hastily purchased essentials on the bed. UA had provided him with basic necessities, clothes, and even a small stipend until things were sorted out. Rules, Midnight said, leaning against the doorframe with arms crossed. 1. No unauthorized quirk use. 2. No leaving without notifying me. 3. Training starts at 6 a.m. sharp. 6. Naruto groaned. Come on, I'm in a different dimension. Don't I get a break? Heroes don't get breaks, she replied unsympathetically. Especially not ones housing 8 quirks plus whatever your chakra system brings to the table. She pushed off from the doorframe and approached him, suddenly serious. You understand what you're carrying now, right? One for all isn't just power, it's responsibility. All Might chose you on instinct, but now you need to prove him right. Naruto matched her serious tone. I know about responsibility. I've been carrying the nine-tailed fox inside me since I was born. Compared to that, this is nothing. Midnight's eyebrow rose. Nine-tailed fox. A chakra beast sealed inside me as a baby, Naruto explained, lifting his shirt to show the seal on his stomach. Kurama. He's cranky, destructive, and has tried to take over my body more than once. Midnight studied the complex seal pattern with genuine interest. You're full of surprises, Uzumaki. Naruto, he corrected. Just call me Naruto. All this Uzumaki-san stuff feels weird. A small smile played at her lips. Alright, Naruto. You can call me Midnight. Or Ms. Kayama during school hours. She turned to leave, pausing at the door. Rest up. Tomorrow we see what you're really capable of. After she left, Naruto flopped onto the bed, mind racing. In a single day, he'd been transported to another world, gained a new power, met actual superheroes, and now had a place to stay with a supervisor who was equal parts intimidating and, well, he wasn't sure what else. What do you think about all this, Kurama? He asked aloud. No answer came. The connection to the Ninetales felt muted, distant. Another thing to figure out in this strange world. Naruto stared at the ceiling, thinking of home. I'll find my way back, he promised the empty room. But first, I need to master this power. He held up his hand, calling forth a small flicker of One for All's energy. It danced across his fingertips, mixing with his blue chakra in fascinating patterns. Whatever you are, he addressed the power, we're partners now. So let's show this world what a ninja from the hidden leaf can really do. The green lightning seemed to pulse in response, as if accepting the challenge. The next morning arrived with a bang, literally. Naruto jolted awake to find Midnight standing in his doorway, having slammed the door open with zero subtlety. Rise and shine, she announced cheerfully. It's 5:55 a.m. Naruto groaned, pulling the pillow over his head. 5 more minutes. The pillow was suddenly yanked away. 5:56. Get moving or I release my quirk. Trust me, you don't want to start training already sedated. That got him moving. Within minutes, Naruto was dressed in the training clothes UA had provided, a blue tracksuit with their logo. You look almost respectable, Midnight commented as they headed out. Less like you jumped out of an anime convention. What's anime? Naruto asked. Midnight's step faltered. Right. Different world. We have a lot of cultural gaps to fill. They jogged to a nearby park that was empty in the early morning hours. Midnight directed Naruto to a secluded area surrounded by trees. First, I need to understand your baseline, she said, suddenly all business. Show me what you could do before receiving One for All. Naruto nodded, creating 3 shadow clones without the green lightning effect. I'm a shadow clone specialist. Back home I could make thousands, but here the chakra feels different. Maybe 100 max. 100? Midnight looked impressed despite herself. That's still extraordinary. I also have this, Naruto continued, forming a Rasengan. It's my signature jutsu. Interesting. Pure energy manipulation without changing its nature. Naruto blinked. You understand chakra? No, but I understand power dynamics, she replied. Continue. For the next hour, Naruto demonstrated his basic techniques, transformation jutsu, substitution, various combat combinations with his clones. Midnight observed carefully, occasionally asking questions or making notes on her phone. Your fighting style relies heavily on overwhelming opponents with numbers and unpredictability, she observed. Creative, but sometimes inefficient. Hey, it works. Naruto protested. Against villains with area effect quirks, you'd be at a disadvantage, she countered. One explosion could eliminate all your clones at once. She had a point, Naruto had to admit. So what's your suggestion? Integration, Midnight said, stepping closer. You need to learn how each of the quirks within one for all complements your existing abilities. Not just stacking powers, but creating synergies. She pulled out what looked like a small remote and pressed a button. From behind the trees, several training dummies on motorized platforms emerged. For example, she continued, your Black Whip quirk. How might it enhance your shadow clone strategy? Naruto thought for a moment. I could create a network between clones. Like, connect them so they can coordinate better. Show me. Naruto created 5 shadow clones, each channeling one for all. Then he focused on the Black Whip quirk, extending dark tendrils from each clone to connect with the others. Now we're linked, the original Naruto explained. If one clone sees something, we all know instantly. Good start, Midnight nodded. Now attack the dummies. They're programmed to evade. The dummies sprang to life, darting between trees with surprising speed. Naruto's connected clones moved as one unit, the black energy whips allowing them to coordinate without verbal communication. When one clone spotted a target, all 5 adjusted instantly, capturing 3 dummies in seconds. Impressive, Midnight admitted. Now try incorporating float. For the next 3 hours, she pushed him to combine different quirks with his ninja techniques in increasingly complex scenarios. By mid-morning, Naruto was drenched in sweat but grinning with accomplishment. Not bad for a first session, Midnight said, tossing him a water bottle. You adapt quickly. Told ya, Naruto panted, gulping water. Quick learner. Don't get cocky. We've barely scratched the surface. She checked her watch. We're expected at UA at noon. Principal Nizu wants to run some tests on your energy signature. It might help identify how to get you home. Naruto's expression brightened. Really? That's great. It's a starting point, she cautioned. Dimensional travel isn't exactly common here. As they walked back toward the apartments to clean up, Midnight's phone buzzed. She checked it, frowning. Change of plans. There's been another incident downtown. Energy signature similar to what was detected when you arrived. Naruto stopped walking. Kazuma? The guy who sent me here. He might have followed me. We don't know yet. All Might is already on scene. She looked at Naruto critically. This isn't an invitation to join. You're still unauthorized. But if it's connected to me, then official heroes will handle it, she cut him off firmly. Naruto crossed his arms. Back home, I'm an elite ninja who's saved my village multiple times. Here, I'm being treated like an academy student. Because in this world, that's essentially what you are, Midnight replied, softening slightly at his frustration. Different worlds, different rules, remember? We have systems for a reason. Her phone buzzed again. She read the message, expression growing concerned. All Might is requesting backup. The situation's escalating. Let me help, Naruto pressed. If it's someone from my world, I might recognize their techniques, know their weaknesses. Midnight hesitated, clearly torn between protocol and practicality. This is against regulations. Look, I'm going whether you approve or not, Naruto said bluntly. You can either come with me and pretend to be supervising, or try to stop me and waste time we don't have. To his surprise, Midnight laughed. Direct approach. I can respect that. She tucked her phone away. Fine. Consider this a field training exercise. But you follow my lead, understand? Yes, ma'am. Naruto grinned. She rolled her eyes. Don't call me ma'am. Makes me sound old. Whatever you say, sensei. That earned him a sharp look, but he could swear there was amusement behind it. Let's go, brat. Downtown Mizutafu was in chaos when they arrived. A section of the shopping district had been evacuated, police setting up barriers to keep civilians back. Several pro-heroes were already on scene, including All Might, who was facing off against a swirling vortex of dark energy in the central plaza. Midnight. All Might called when he spotted them. And young Uzumaki, I'm not surprised you brought him. Field observation only, Midnight replied smoothly. What are we dealing with? All Might gestured to the vortex. Energy anomaly appeared 30 minutes ago. It's growing steadily and emitting radiation similar to what was detected when our young friend arrived. Naruto stepped closer, studying the vortex. It did look similar to the dimensional rift that had brought him here, but something was off. The energy signature felt artificial. That's not a natural portal, he said. Someone's forcing it open from the other side. As if responding to his voice, the vortex pulsed violently. A shock wave rippled outward, knocking back the heroes who stood too close. Take cover. All Might shouted, bracing himself. The vortex expanded suddenly, then collapsed inward with a thunderous implosion. Where it had been now stood a single figure, a tall man with ash-gray hair and strange markings covering his visible skin. He wore a mix of traditional ninja garb and more modern tactical equipment. Kazuma. Naruto growled, instantly recognizing the dimensional villain. The man's eyes found Naruto immediately, a slow smile spreading across his face. Uzumaki. You're still alive. How convenient. All Might stepped forward. Visitor from another world, you've entered illegally and caused significant damage. Surrender peacefully. Kazuma barely spared All Might a glance. A hero, I presume? Your world is full of them, from what I've observed. Colorful costumes, grandiose titles, public adoration. His tone dripped with disdain. How superficial. Don't underestimate him, Naruto warned the heroes. He absorbs energy, chakra in our world. He might be able to do the same with Quirks. Kazuma's smile widened. Already figuring things out, Uzumaki? Yes, this world has fascinating energy. Different from chakra, but equally delicious. Without warning, he moved, faster than most could track. Only All Might and Naruto saw it clearly, Kazuma lunging toward a nearby fire hydrant, placing his hand on it, the metal instantly corroding as he seemed to absorb something invisible. He's taking the water quirk user's energy. Naruto shouted. Too late. Kazuma twisted, and a blast of pressurized water shot toward the assembled heroes. All Might countered with a massive punch that dispersed the water, but Kazuma was already moving again, touching a streetlight that melted around his fingers. Fascinating power system you have here, Kazuma called out, now generating electricity between his palms. So specific, so singular. Not like our versatile chakra at all. Midnight moved into position, ripping her sleeve to release her sedation quirk. Let's see you absorb this, dimensional boy. The pink mist drifted toward Kazuma, who simply smiled and held his breath. In a blur of movement, he appeared behind her. Too slow, he whispered. Before he could strike, a black tendril wrapped around his arm. Naruto, crackling with one for all's energy, yanked him away from Midnight. Your fights with me, Kazuma. The villain's eyes widened at the sight of Naruto's power. What is this? You've acquired something new, Uzumaki. Something powerful. All Might used the distraction to close the distance, throwing a devastating punch. Texas Smash. Kazuma barely evaded, the force of the attack still catching him and sending him tumbling across the plaza. He recovered quickly, studying All Might with new interest. Such raw power. I wonder. Naruto created 20 shadow clones, all channeling one for all. Whatever you're planning, it ends here. The clones rushed Kazuma from all directions. The villain fought remarkably well, dispelling several with precise strikes, but the sheer number overwhelmed him. One clone got close enough to slam a Rasengan into his side, sending him crashing through a storefront. Did we get him? Midnight asked, regrouping beside Naruto. The debris shifted, and Kazuma emerged, injured but smiling. Now I understand. You've merged with this world's power system. He wiped blood from his mouth. How fortunate for me. A perfect test subject for what's to come. What are you after, Kazuma? Naruto demanded. Why follow me here? Follow you? Kazuma laughed. Don't flatter yourself, Uzumaki. You were merely caught in my experiment. I've been working on dimensional travel for years. This world has been my target all along. He raised his hands, and the air around him began to distort. But now that I've confirmed a few theories, I'll take my leave. So much to prepare. Stop him. All Might shouted, launching forward. Naruto moved simultaneously, black whip extending from both arms. They were fast, but Kazuma was ready. The dimensional distortion expanded violently, creating a shockwave that knocked everyone back. When the dust settled, Kazuma was gone, leaving only scattered papers and debris swirling in the wind. Damn it! Naruto punched the ground, cracking the pavement. He got away again. All Might placed a hand on his shoulder. We'll find him, young Uzumaki. But this confirms our suspicions. We're dealing with a deliberate incursion, not an accident. Midnight joined them, brushing dust from her costume. He seemed very interested in Quirks. The way he absorbed those abilities. He's building something, Naruto said grimly. Back in my world, he was experimenting with merging different chakra types. If he's trying to combine chakra and Quirks, the potential consequences could be catastrophic, All Might finished. We need to alert the authorities, establish a task force. As the heroes coordinated the response, Naruto stared at the spot where Kazuma had vanished. The villain's words echoed in his mind, a perfect test subject for what's to come. Whatever Kazuma was planning, Naruto was somehow central to it. And that meant the path home might be through stopping him. Midnight appeared beside him. You did well, she said quietly. Quick thinking with the black whip. Not good enough, Naruto replied, frustration evident. He still escaped. He wasn't expecting your new abilities. Next time, he won't have that advantage. She nudged his shoulder. Come on. We have reports to file and training to continue. This is just the beginning. As they walked away from the scene, Naruto felt a strange sensation, like being watched. He glanced back at the empty plaza, but saw nothing unusual. Still, the feeling persisted. Somewhere in this new world, Kazuma was plotting. And somewhere between the dimensions, something else was stirring, something connected to both Naruto and the power now flowing through his veins. The adventure had truly begun. Chapter 2, Power and Purpose. 3 weeks after Naruto's arrival in the hero world, UA High School had almost started to feel normal. Almost. Focus, Naruto. Midnight shouted as she dodged another barrage of shadow clones. Precision over power. Naruto gritted his teeth, green lightning crackling around his body as he redirected his attack. 20 clones shifted formation, using Black Whip to create a web of dark energy across the training ground. Got you now, he called, tightening the net. Midnight smirked, ripping her sleeve to release a cloud of pink sedative mist. Think again. The nearest clone stumbled, instantly drowsy, their coordination falling apart. Naruto cursed under his breath and activated another quirk, Danger Sense. The world seemed to slow as his perception sharpened, allowing him to spot the pattern in her mist's dispersal. Nice try. He channeled wind nature chakra, creating a countercurrent that pushed the sedative away while maintaining his black whip net. Midnight's eyes widened slightly. Clever combo. She vaulted over a fallen clone, her movements fluid and precise, aiming directly for the original Naruto. He saw her coming but couldn't completely dodge while maintaining his technique. Her boot connected with his chest, sending him skidding backward. Match point, she announced, standing over him with a triumphant smile. You're still too focused on offense. Sometimes defense wins the day. Naruto sat up, rubbing his chest. Yeah. Could have beaten you if I went full power. And destroyed half the training ground in the process. She offered her hand, pulling him up. Control matters more than raw strength. You have 8 quirks plus your chakra abilities, learning when not to use them is just as important as mastering how to use them. I get it. Naruto dispelled his remaining clones. But Kazuma is still out there planning who knows what. We need to find him before we fully understand what we're dealing with, she finished firmly. The investigation team is making progress tracking his energy signature. Rushing in half-prepared won't help anyone. Naruto wanted to argue but knew she had a point. The past weeks had been a crash course in this world's hero systems, quirk science, and the complex integration of one for all with his chakra network. Progress had been impressive but uneven. Sometimes his combined powers worked in perfect harmony, other times they clashed violently, leaving him drained or causing unintended damage. Midnight checked her phone. Meeting with Principal Nizu in 20 minutes. He has updates from the Dimensional Research Team. Naruto perked up. Every potential lead on getting home deserved attention, even if part of him had grown surprisingly comfortable in this strange new world. As they walked back toward the main building, Naruto caught Midnight watching him with that analytical look she often had during training. What? He asked. You're adapting faster than anyone expected, she said. Even All Might is impressed. Fast learner, remember? Naruto grinned. Besides, I've had a good teacher. Was that a hint of color on her cheeks? Before he could be sure, Midnight had turned away, her professional demeanor snapping back into place. Don't get cocky. We've barely scratched the surface of your potential combinations. Their dynamic had evolved over the past weeks from strictly professional to something more complex. Midnight remained demanding and uncompromising in training, but moments of genuine connection had emerged between sessions, conversations over meals, late-night strategy discussions, even the occasional shared laugh at cultural misunderstandings. They just reached the entrance when Naruto stopped abruptly, a chill racing down his spine. One for All's danger sense quirk activated without his conscious control. Something's wrong, he said quietly. Midnight tensed immediately. What do you sense? Before he could answer, an explosion rocked the far side of campus. Alarms blared as emergency protocols activated. UA security breach in Sector 5, an automated voice announced through the campus-wide speakers. All students return to designated safe zones. Faculty to emergency positions. Midnight's phone buzzed with an incoming alert. Villain attack. Multiple intruders. She looked at Naruto. This isn't a drill. Let's go. Naruto started forward, but Midnight caught his arm. You're still technically unauthorized, she reminded him. Stay with the students in the safe zone. Are you kidding? I can help. That's an order, Naruto. Her expression softened slightly. Please. We have protocols for a reason. Another explosion, closer this time. Screams echoed across the courtyard as students began running toward shelter zones. Midnight's phone buzzed again, and her face paled as she read the message. They're specifically targeting the support labs, she said. Where the dimensional research is happening. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Kazuma. We don't know that yet. She turned, professional hero mode fully engaged. Get to safety zone B with the first-year students. I'll find you when it's over. Before Naruto could protest further, she was gone, racing toward the source of the explosions. For about 3 seconds, he considered following her orders. Then he created a shadow clone. You go to safety zone B, he told his duplicate. I'm checking this out. The clone saluted. On it, boss. Naruto headed in the opposite direction, toward the support labs. One for All's energy crackled through his system, enhancing his speed as he bounded across rooftops. The scene below was controlled chaos, faculty heroes directing students to safety zones while security systems activated across campus. As he approached the research building, the damage became apparent. A massive hole had been blown through the exterior wall, smoke billowing from inside. Several figures in dark clothing were engaged with UA's staff. Naruto recognized Present Mike using his voice quirk to keep 2 villains pinned down, while Power Loader defended the lab entrance. No sign of Midnight or All Might yet. Taking cover behind a ventilation unit, Naruto studied the attackers. Their coordination suggested planning and purpose, not a random attack. One villain stood apart from the others, a tall woman with metallic scales covering her skin, deflecting Power Loader's attacks without effort. Where is the dimensional data? She demanded, her voice carrying a strange harmonic quality. Our intel says it's here. You've got bad intel. Power Loader shouted back, activating his digging gauntlets to create a defensive barrier. The woman laughed, the sound eerily musical. Liar. We tracked the energy signatures directly to this facility. Naruto's eyes narrowed. This confirmed his suspicion, the attack was connected to his arrival and Kazuma's plans. As he weighed his options, a flicker of movement caught his attention, a slim figure slipping through a side entrance while the main battle served as distraction. Classic misdirection, Naruto muttered, creating 3 shadow clones. 2 of you help the teachers. You, he pointed to the third, find Midnight and tell her what's happening. I'm going after the infiltrator. Naruto slipped through the same side entrance, finding himself in a darkened hallway. Danger sense guided him, a persistent prickling that grew stronger as he moved deeper into the building. The layout was unfamiliar, he'd never been allowed in the secure research areas before. A crash from a lab ahead confirmed he was on the right track. Naruto peered through the damaged doorway to see a figure in a tight black bodysuit downloading data from a computer terminal. Their face was obscured by a high-tech mask with glowing sensors. Found what you're looking for. Naruto called, stepping into the room. The figure spun, raising a hand fitted with what looked like a modified capture weapon. The dimensional anomaly himself, they said, voice digitally altered. How convenient. So you know who I am, Naruto replied, channeling one for All's energy in preparation. Wanna introduce yourself? Or should I just call you, creepy mask guy? Instead of answering, the intruder fired their weapon, a web of electrified wires shot toward Naruto, who countered with Black Whip. The 2 energy-based captures collided in midair, creating a shower of sparks. Interesting, the masked figure said. Kazuma was right about you. Such potential. The name confirmation set Naruto's teeth on edge. So you're working for him. What's he planning? Preparation, not planning. The merging is already underway. Before Naruto could press for clarification, the intruder triggered something on their wrist. A pulse of energy rippled through the room, disrupting Naruto's chakra flow momentarily, long enough for the figure to grab a data drive and dash for the window. Oh no, you don't. Naruto recovered quickly, activating float to launch himself into an intercept course. The intruder was fast, but Naruto's enhanced speed was faster. He tackled them midair, sending both crashing onto a lab table covered in equipment. Glass shattered, papers scattered, and something that looked important began beeping ominously. They grappled briefly before Naruto pinned the intruder down. Start talking. What merging? What's Kazuma doing with the dimensional research? The figure laughed. You really don't see it, do you? You're the proof of concept, Uzumaki. The perfect fusion of chakra and quirk energies. What's that supposed to mean? Naruto tightened his grip. Instead of answering, the intruder twisted suddenly, a hidden device in their glove discharging directly against Naruto's chest. Pain exploded through his system as his quirk energy and chakra went haywire, the conflicting powers creating a momentary feedback loop. By the time his vision cleared, the intruder was at the window again. The data we needed is secured. Your physical sample will come later. Physical sample? Naruto growled, struggling to his feet as his powers stabilized. Did you think this was about research notes? The mask tilted mockingly. We came for confirmation, but Kazuma wants you, Uzumaki. The perfect bridge between worlds. The intruder dropped something on the floor, a small sphere that immediately began emitting thick smoke. When it cleared, they were gone, leaving only the beeping device that now seemed to be counting down. Ah, crap, Naruto muttered, recognizing an explosive timer when he saw one. He grabbed as much of the scattered research data as he could and dived through the window just as the lab erupted in flames behind him. He landed in the courtyard amid chaos. His shadow clones had joined the fight against the scale-covered woman, who was now being forced into retreat by the combined efforts of several UA teachers. The other villains were already subdued or fleeing. Naruto. Midnight appeared beside him, looking both relieved and furious. I gave you a direct order. Yeah, and I disobeyed it to stop them from stealing all the dimensional research data, he countered, holding up the salvaged papers. You're welcome. Her eyes narrowed dangerously before spotting the electrical burns on his chest. You're injured. I'm fine. But we have bigger problems. Naruto quickly explained what the intruder had revealed. They're not just after information. They want me, something about being a bridge between worlds. Midnight's anger faded into concern. This changes things. We need to get you to safety until, I'm not hiding, Naruto cut her off firmly. If I'm their target, I'm also our best bait to draw them out. Besides, he added with a grim smile, I'm not exactly easy to capture. Before she could respond, All Might landed beside them, his perpetual smile notably strained. The attackers are retreating. Is everyone alright? Naruto intercepted one stealing research data, Midnight explained, her professional tone returning. They specifically mentioned him as their ultimate target, a physical sample for Kazuma's experiments. All Might's expression darkened. This is troubling news. Come, both of you, Principal Nizu is establishing an emergency response team. We need to share this information immediately. As they followed All Might toward the administrative building, Naruto noticed Midnight staying close to his side, her usual confident stride now tense and alert. Despite the circumstances, he felt oddly reassured by her protective presence. Hey, he said quietly. I really am okay. She glanced at him, professional mask slipping just enough to show genuine worry. This time. But Kazuma is clearly escalating his plans, whatever they are. Good thing I've got a pro hero watching my back then, right? Her lips curved in a small smile. And don't you forget it. The aftermath of the attack transformed UA's approach to Naruto's situation. What had begun as a curious anomaly, a visitor from another dimension with unique abilities, was now recognized as a central piece in a dangerous puzzle. Principal Nizu's office had become a war room. Digital displays showed damage reports, security footage of the attackers, and analysis of their quirks and fighting styles. Around the table sat key UA faculty and two government representatives from an agency Naruto hadn't heard of before, the Interdimensional Affairs Bureau, apparently created specifically for this crisis. The attack confirms what we suspected, Nizu said, his small paws manipulating holographic data displays. Kazuma isn't just experimenting with dimensional travel, he's specifically targeting the interaction between chakra and quirks. And he views Naruto as the prime example of that interaction, All Might added, currently in his weakened form to conserve energy. One of the government agents, a stern woman with rectangular glasses, leaned forward. Which means Uzumaki's security is now a national priority. We recommend immediate relocation to a secure facility where, no, Naruto interrupted firmly. I'm not being locked away somewhere. This isn't negotiable, the agent replied coldly. The threat level is exactly why I need to stay operational, Naruto finished. Look, I get the concern, but hiding me doesn't solve anything. Kazuma will keep coming, and I'm the best chance you have of stopping him. Midnight, who had remained uncharacteristically quiet during the meeting, finally spoke. Naruto's right. Isolating him might seem safer, but it's short-sighted. His abilities are our greatest asset in this fight. The second government agent, an older man with a quirk that made his skin semi-transparent, nodded thoughtfully. There's merit to that argument. But the current arrangement clearly has security vulnerabilities. Then we adapt, Midnight proposed. Enhanced security protocols, limited information sharing, strategic disinformation where appropriate. We keep Naruto active but protected. Principal Nizu's beady eyes gleamed with interest. What exactly are you suggesting, Midnight? A specialized strike team, she said confidently. Small, elite, focused on both protecting Naruto and actively hunting Kazuma. Operating independently from standard hero protocols when necessary. The transparent agent looked intrigued. Off the books? Semi-official, Midnight clarified. With proper oversight but maximum flexibility. All Might coughed lightly. Who would lead this team? I would, Midnight stated without hesitation. I've been training with Naruto since his arrival. I understand his abilities and limitations better than anyone except All Might, who has other responsibilities as the symbol of peace. Naruto couldn't hide his surprise at her forceful advocacy. Their training relationship had grown increasingly effective, but this level of commitment was unexpected. The rectangular glasses agent still looked skeptical. And who else would be on this strike team? Eraserhead, Midnight said immediately. His quirk cancellation abilities provide a crucial failsafe if Naruto's powers ever destabilize. Plus select UA students who've demonstrated exceptional potential. Students, the agent echoed incredulously. This is a national security matter, not a field trip. UA students are heroes in training, Nizu reminded her. Many have combat capabilities that exceed those of professional heroes. And their involvement could be framed as an advanced internship program, perfectly within educational guidelines while serving our larger purpose. Naruto watched the debate continue, impressed by how quickly Midnight had formulated a plan that kept him active while addressing security concerns. When she caught his eye across the table, he mouthed a silent, "Thank you." She responded with the barest nod, but her eyes conveyed more, determination, concern, and something warmer that Naruto wasn't quite ready to name. After nearly an hour of discussion, a compromise was reached. Naruto would remain under UA jurisdiction but with enhanced security measures. Midnight would lead a special operations team with Eraserhead as second-in-command, plus 3 carefully selected students and rotating support from other pro-heroes as needed. This arrangement is provisional, the rectangular glasses agent warned as the meeting concluded. One more security breach, and we revisit the secure facility option. As the others filed out, Midnight lingered, approaching Principal Nizu with Naruto at her side. There's one more thing we need, she said quietly. Access to the complete one-for-all research archives. Nizu's expression remained neutral. Those records are highly classified. Even All Might doesn't have unrestricted access to his predecessor's documentation. Naruto is experiencing something unprecedented, full access to the vestiges and their quirks from day one, Midnight argued. If there's anything in those archives that might explain why, or help him better integrate these abilities. It's not just about fighting better, Naruto added. Those visions I keep having of the previous users, they're trying to tell me something. I can feel it. Nizu studied them both carefully. Very well. I'll arrange limited access to portions of the archives relevant to vestige manifestation. But tread carefully, some of that information was restricted for good reason. Outside in the hallway, Naruto waited until they were alone before turning to Midnight. You didn't have to do that. Stand up for me, I mean. Of course I did, she replied simply. Locking you away would be both ineffective and unjust. Still. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. Thanks. For believing in me. Something softened in her expression. You've earned that belief, Naruto. These past weeks, you've worked harder than any student I've ever taught. Even though I still don't follow orders, he teased, referencing their earlier clash. Your insubordination is a work in progress, she acknowledged with a slight smile. But your instincts are often right, even when your methods are questionable. It was perhaps the most direct compliment she'd given him since they'd started working together. Naruto felt an unexpected warmth in his chest at her words. The moment was interrupted by Aizawa approaching from down the hallway, his perpetual look of exhaustion even more pronounced than usual. I hear I've been volunteered for your special team, Kayama, he drawled. You're welcome, she replied cheerfully. You were getting bored with regular teaching anyway. Aizawa's bloodshot eyes shifted to Naruto. Just to be clear, kid, if your powers go haywire, I won't hesitate to shut them down. Nothing personal. Wouldn't have it any other way, Naruto assured him. Better you than some government agent who doesn't know what they're doing. That earned him the closest thing to approval Aizawa ever showed, a slightly less disapproving frown. First team meeting tomorrow morning, Midnight announced. I'll have student selections by then. For now, Naruto needs rest. That electrical discharge did more damage than he's admitting. I told you, I'm fine, Naruto protested. Ninetales chakra always helps me heal fast. Ninetales? Aizawa raised an eyebrow. Long story, Midnight cut in. For another time. Go home, Shota. Get some sleep yourself. After Aizawa departed with a noncommittal grunt, Midnight turned back to Naruto. You do need rest, regardless of your healing abilities. And I need to review student files to find the right team members. Can I help with that? Naruto asked. I've met some of them during training. I might have input. She considered this. Actually, yes. You'll be working closely with whoever we choose. Your perspective could be valuable. As they walked toward the exit, a comfortable silence fell between them. The events of the day had shifted something in their dynamic, a mutual respect deepened by shared danger and unified purpose. Outside, the evening air was cool, stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Campus security had been tripled, pro-heroes patrolling the perimeter with vigilant attention. What did the masked guy mean? Naruto asked suddenly. About me being a bridge between worlds? Midnight frowned. I'm not certain. But based on what we know of Kazuma's experiments, he may see your unique energy system, chakra modified by one for all, as a key to whatever he's planning. The perfect fusion, Naruto quoted. That's what they called me. Which is why the one for all archives might provide answers, she replied. If we understand exactly how your energy systems are interacting, we might better anticipate Kazuma's next move. Naruto nodded, though a nagging doubt remained. Something about the intruder's words had struck a deeper chord, hinting at implications beyond the obvious threat. Let's get back, Midnight said, noting his pensive expression. Food, shower, rest, in that order. We've got a long day tomorrow. As they headed toward the apartment building, neither noticed the subtle shimmer in the air above a nearby rooftop, a brief distortion that vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving no trace except a faint energy signature too dispersed to trigger security alerts. The observers had seen enough for now. Naruto dreamed of voices. He stood in a vast, empty space filled with swirling golden light. 7 silhouettes surrounded him, each distinct in shape but featureless in detail. He carries us all, one voice said. Too soon. Too unprepared. Yet he adapts, another countered. His chakra system provides stability we didn't anticipate. The threat grows, a third voice warned. The barrier between worlds thins with each passing day. Naruto tried to speak, to ask what they meant, but no sound emerged. The figures began to fade. Find the connection, the first voice urged as it disappeared. Before he completes the circle. Naruto jolted awake, drenched in sweat. The digital clock beside his bed read 3:17 a.m. He sat up, rubbing his face as the dream fragments began to slip away. This wasn't the first time the vestiges had appeared in his dreams, but they'd never spoken so clearly before. Usually, they were just vague presences, watching silently from the periphery of his consciousness. Find the connection. He repeated aloud. What connection? Knowing sleep would elude him now, Naruto got up and moved to the small kitchen area for water. As he drank, he noticed a folder on the counter that hadn't been there when he'd gone to bed. A note was attached in Midnight's elegant handwriting, "Student files for your review. I used my spare key. Sleep well. M.K." Despite the hour, Naruto felt a smile tug at his lips. Of course she'd worked late into the night and still found time to deliver the files personally. That dedication was something he'd come to admire about her, the same focus and determination he valued in himself and his friends back home. Opening the folder, he found profiles of 5 UA students, each with Midnight's handwritten notes in the margins. He recognized some names from his limited interactions during training sessions. Shoto Todoroki, half-cold, half-hot quirk. Exceptional combat potential but interpersonal issues. Midnight had written, power level appropriate, but emotionally closed off. Team dynamics concern. Katsuki Bakugo, explosion quirk. Top combat scores in his class but disciplinary issues. Midnight's note, raw talent undeniable. Attitude problematic. High risk, reward selection. Izuku Midoriya, super strength quirk. Analytical mind, strategic thinker. Notes indicated a strange pattern of self-injury when using his quirk. Reminds me of you when you first received one for all, Midnight had written. Determined, strategic, adapts quickly. Momo Yaoyorozu, creation quirk. Highest academic scores in her class, versatile support capabilities. Perfect strategic complement to your frontline style, Midnight noted. Creation quirk offers endless tactical options. Ochiko Uraraka, zero gravity quirk. Solid combat skills with unique mobility applications. Underestimated by opponents. Quirk synergy potential with your float ability. Naruto studied each file carefully, trying to imagine how these students might fit into a team centered around hunting Kazuma and defending against dimensional threats. By the time dawn broke, he had his recommendations ready. At precisely 7 a.m., his phone buzzed with a text from Midnight, breakfast in my apartment. Bring the files. 10 minutes later, Naruto knocked on her door, folder in hand. She opened it immediately, already dressed in casual clothes rather than her hero costume, jeans and a fitted black top that somehow managed to look both comfortable and elegant. You look tired, she observed, ushering him inside. Trouble sleeping? Another vestige dream, Naruto admitted, following her to the kitchen where coffee and a simple breakfast waited. More vivid than before. Midnight's expression sharpened with interest. What did you see? As they ate, Naruto described the dream in detail, watching her expression grow increasingly thoughtful. Find the connection before he completes the circle, she repeated. Combined with what the intruder said about you being a bridge between worlds. Yeah, doesn't sound great, Naruto agreed. But I have no idea what connection they're talking about. The archives might provide answers, Midnight said. We have access starting this afternoon. She nodded toward the folder. Your thoughts on the candidates? Naruto pushed his empty plate aside. Yaoyorozu and Midoriya are obvious picks. Her creation abilities give us flexibility we'll need, and his analytical skills could help decode whatever Kazuma's planning. And the third? I'm torn between Todoroki and Uraraka, Naruto admitted. His raw power is impressive, but her quirk might combine better with my abilities. Plus, from what I've seen, she works well with others. Midnight nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. My assessment exactly. Uraraka it is. You already decided before asking me, didn't you? Naruto accused lightly. I wanted to see if we'd reach the same conclusion, she countered. It's a good sign for our team dynamic. Something about the way she said, our team, gave Naruto a strange flutter of satisfaction. 3 weeks ago, he'd been a stranger in this world, distrusted and restricted. Now he was helping select a specialized hero team with one of UA's most respected pros. When do we tell them? He asked. They're meeting us at Training Ground Gamma at 9 a.m., Midnight replied. Aizawa will handle the official briefing on Kazuma and the dimensional threat. She stood, collecting their plates. Before that, I want to review the security footage from yesterday's attack again. There's something about the timing that's been bothering me. Naruto followed her to the living room where a laptop sat open on the coffee table. Midnight pulled up the security feeds, specifically the footage of the masked intruder in the research lab. There, she pointed. Watch how they navigate directly to the correct terminal, bypassing closer computers with less valuable data. Inside information, Naruto concluded. They knew exactly what they were looking for. And the main attack was perfectly timed to draw most faculty away from the research wing. Midnight frowned. This level of intelligence suggests, a mole, Naruto finished grimly. Someone at UA is feeding them information. The implication hung heavy in the air. UA was supposed to be a bastion of heroism, the idea that someone inside could be working with Kazuma was disturbing on multiple levels. We keep this between us for now, Midnight decided. Tell only Aizawa and Principal Nizu. If we start a witch hunt, we could play right into Kazuma's hands. Naruto nodded, his mind already racing through possibilities. Do you have footage of everyone's movements during the attack? Maybe we can spot something suspicious. Already requested it from security, Midnight confirmed. It'll be our project tonight. She closed the laptop and stood. For now, let's focus on building our team. If we're going to hunt Kazuma effectively, we need these students fully committed and properly trained. As they prepared to leave, Naruto caught Midnight watching him with an unreadable expression. What? He asked. Just thinking about how quickly you've adapted, she said. Not just to your powers, but to this entire world. It's remarkable. Naruto shrugged, slightly embarrassed by her frank assessment. I've had good help. And it's not my first time dealing with weird situations. Still, she persisted, most people would be overwhelmed. You've taken it all in stride. Well, I'm not most people, he replied with a grin. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, future Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village. For a moment, he thought she might ask what a Hokage was. He'd mentioned the title before but never explained it fully. Instead, she simply smiled, a genuine warmth in her expression that made something tighten pleasantly in his chest. No, she agreed softly. You're certainly not most people. The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither was quite ready to name. Then Midnight cleared her throat, professional demeanor sliding back into place. We should get going. Aizawa hates when people are late. As they headed toward Training Ground Gamma, Naruto found himself hyper-aware of Midnight beside him, the confident stride, the subtle floral scent of her perfume, the way sunlight caught in her dark hair. These were details he'd noticed before but suddenly seemed more significant. He pushed the thoughts aside, focusing instead on the mission ahead. Whatever was developing between them would have to wait. Kazuma's threat took priority, and the selected students deserved his full attention. Training Ground Gamma resembled an industrial maze, pipes, platforms, and structures creating a complex terrain ideal for quirk-based combat practice. When Naruto and Midnight arrived, Aizawa was already waiting with the 3 selected students, Midoriya, Yaoyorozu, and Uraraka. "You're late," Aizawa noted flatly, though they were actually 2 minutes early. Fashionably prompt, Midnight corrected with a smile. "Has everyone been briefed on the basics?" Midoriya stepped forward, green hair tousled by the morning breeze. "Aizawa-sensei told us this is a special assignment involving a dimensional threat, but not much else." His gaze fell on Naruto with undisguised curiosity. "You're the transfer student with the multiple quirks, right? I've seen you training sometimes." "That's me," Naruto confirmed. "Though, transfer student is stretching it a bit. I'm actually from another dimension." 3 pairs of eyes widened simultaneously. "Another dimension? Really?" Uraraka asked, her brown eyes huge. "Like, a parallel Earth or something completely different?" "Completely different," Naruto confirmed. "Where I'm from, we don't have quirks. We use chakra instead, a different kind of energy system." "Fascinating," Yaoyorozu murmured, her analytical mind visibly processing this information. "And that explains the unique energy signature readings that have been detected around campus lately." Aizawa cut through the questions with his usual efficiency. "The full situation is this: Uzumaki arrived in our world during a battle with a dimensional villain named Kazuma. Shortly after, All Might chose him as the successor for One for All." "One for All?" Midoriya blurted out, then immediately covered his mouth, looking embarrassed. "Yes, Midoriya," Aizawa confirmed with a raised eyebrow. "I'm aware you know about All Might's quirk. That's partially why you were selected for this team." Naruto noted the shocked looks from the other 2 students and realized All Might's quirk wasn't common knowledge, even at UA. Interesting. When Naruto received One for All, Midnight continued, something unprecedented happened. His chakra network catalyzed the quirk, giving him immediate access to not just the power but all the quirks of previous users. "That should be impossible," Yaoyorozu said softly. "Quirk theory doesn't support that kind of immediate integration. Which is why we're dealing with something beyond standard quirk science," Aizawa replied. "The intersection of 2 different power systems creates possibilities we haven't encountered before. And that's what Kazuma is after," Naruto added. "He attacked UA yesterday to steal research data about dimensional energy and specifically mentioned me as a bridge between worlds." Midoriya's expression had shifted from shock to intense focus, his mind clearly working through implications. "So our mission is to protect Naruto-san while hunting this villain?" "Partially," Midnight confirmed. "But it's more complex than that. We believe Kazuma is attempting to merge our world's quirk energy with chakra from Naruto's world on a fundamental level. The consequences could be catastrophic for both dimensions. Think of it like trying to combine matter and antimatter," Aizawa elaborated. "Except instead of simple annihilation, we're looking at potential reality warping on a scale we can't predict." The gravity of the situation settled over the students. Uraraka was the first to speak up, determination replacing her initial shock. "So how do we stop him? What's our plan?" "First, we train," Midnight said firmly. "Each of you was selected for specific abilities that complement our team's needs. Before we can effectively hunt Kazuma, you need to learn to work with Naruto and his unique power set." She gestured to the training ground. "Today is about quirk integration and combat synergy. Kazuma's followers have demonstrated the ability to absorb and temporarily use quirks they come in contact with. You need to be prepared for opponents who might turn your own abilities against you. And that's where I come in," Naruto said with a confident grin. "My shadow clones can simulate different quirks we've seen them use. Plus, my experience fighting chakra stealers back in my world might help develop counter-strategies." For the next 3 hours, they ran intensive drills. Naruto created shadow clones that mimicked various enemy abilities they'd observed during the UA attack. Midoriya's analytical skills proved immediately valuable, quickly identifying weaknesses in attack patterns. Yaoyorozu's creation quirk provided adaptive countermeasures, while Uraraka's zero-gravity created unexpected mobility advantages. Midnight and Aizawa observed, occasionally stepping in with guidance but mostly allowing the team to develop its own dynamic. By midday, they'd progressed from awkward coordination to impressively fluid teamwork. During a water break, Midoriya approached Naruto with barely contained excitement. "Your abilities are amazing. The way you integrate different quirks with your shadow clones creates combat options I've never even considered before." Naruto couldn't help but like the green-haired student's enthusiasm. "You're pretty impressive yourself. That notebook of yours has more battle strategies than some Jonin tacticians I know." "Jonin?" Midoriya asked curiously. "Elite ninja rank," Naruto explained. "Back home, that's what I am, or was working toward, anyway." "What's it like?" Uraraka joined their conversation. "Your world, I mean." Naruto thought for a moment. "Different, but similar in some ways. We have our own version of heroes, shinobi who protect villages and complete missions. There are bad guys trying to gain power, good guys trying to stop them." "And your friends?" she pressed gently. "You must miss them." Something tightened in Naruto's chest. "Yeah. Every day. We'll help you get back," Yaoyorozu promised, joining the group. "Once we stop Kazuma." The simple sincerity in her voice reminded Naruto of Sakura, bringing a bittersweet pang of homesickness. Before he could respond, Midnight called them back to training. "Combat simulation," she announced. "Aizawa and I will play the role of Kazuma's lieutenants. Your objective, protect Naruto while neutralizing us." "Wait, protect me?" Naruto protested. "I don't need, in this scenario," Aizawa cut him off, "you're the target they want to capture, not kill. That means holding back some of your power to avoid being taken. It's a different challenge than going all out." Naruto wanted to argue but saw the strategic value. If Kazuma really wanted to capture him for experiments, he'd need to fight defensively while supporting his team, not his natural combat style. "Fine," he conceded. "But don't expect me to play damsel in distress." Midnight's lips quirked. "Wouldn't dream of it. Begin in 3, 2, 1. The simulation erupted into controlled chaos. Aizawa's erasure quirk periodically nullified the student's abilities, while Midnight used her sedation mist to control battlefield zones. Naruto found himself genuinely challenged. Every time he prepared to counter with overwhelming force, he had to remember his role as the target and adjust accordingly. Midoriya, Uraraka, and Yaoyorozu adapted quickly, forming a rotating defense. Perimeter. Yaoyorozu created gas masks to counter Midnight's quirk, while Uraraka used her zero-gravity on debris to create floating barriers against Aizawa's capture weapon. Midoriya coordinated their movements with hand signals and quick tactical adjustments. 20 minutes into the grueling exercise, the students had managed to capture Aizawa by predicting his line of sight and exploiting his quirk's weaknesses. Midnight proved more elusive, her combat experience evident in each precise movement. "Time to end this," Naruto muttered to Midoriya. "I have an idea, but I need a distraction." Midoriya nodded, quickly relaying instructions to the others. On his signal, all three students launched a coordinated attack on Midnight, forcing her to release more sedation mist to keep them at bay. In that moment, Naruto activated Float and hovered above the battlefield, then created 20 shadow clones that plummeted downward in a circle around Midnight. Each clone activated Black Whip simultaneously, creating a cage of dark energy that contracted inward, immobilizing her before she could disperse them with her quirk. Captured, Aizawa called from the sidelines. Exercise complete. The shadow clones dispersed as Naruto landed beside the trapped Midnight. "Not bad for a damsel in distress, huh?" "Clever tactic," she acknowledged with a challenging smile. "But in a real fight, I wouldn't have held back." "Neither would I," he countered, releasing the black whip cage. For a brief moment, their eyes locked in silent competition that held an undercurrent of something more complex. Then Midnight turned to address the panting students. "Excellent work, all of you. You adapted to an unfamiliar team member and unfavorable conditions with professionalism and creativity." She glanced at Aizawa, who offered a curt nod of agreement. "I think we found our team." As they gathered their equipment to head back, Naruto felt a surge of satisfaction. These students weren't his friends from home, but they were skilled, determined, and genuinely good people. Working with them felt right, a purpose to focus on while figuring out how to get back to his own world. "Naruto-san," Midoriya approached as they walked. "I was wondering, that energy sphere you create. It's not a quirk, right? It's chakra." "The Rasengan," Naruto confirmed. "One of my signature techniques." Midoriya's eyes lit up. "Could you, maybe show me how it works sometime? The energy control principles might help with my own quirk." The earnest request reminded Naruto so strongly of himself at a younger age, always eager to learn new techniques, that he couldn't help but smile. "Sure thing. But it's not easy. Took me weeks to learn it originally." "I'm willing to put in the work," Midoriya assured him with determination that Naruto instantly respected. As they continued toward campus, Naruto noticed Midnight watching their interaction with an expression he couldn't quite read, something between approval and concern. "Everything okay?" he asked, dropping back to walk beside her. "Just thinking," she replied. "You've made an impression on them already. Especially Midoriya. Is that a problem?" She shook her head. "Not at all. It's a strength for our team. I just hope." She paused, seeming to reconsider her words. "I hope we can resolve this situation without anyone getting hurt. These are still students, even if they're exceptional ones." The protective concern in her voice was something Naruto understood well. "We'll keep them safe," he promised. "And stop Kazuma before he can do whatever he's planning." Midnight's expression softened. "Your confidence is reassuring, even if it's sometimes misplaced." "Hey, I back up my confidence with results," Naruto protested good-naturedly. Her laugh was genuine, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. "That you do, Uzumaki. That you do." The One for All archives occupied a secure sublevel beneath UA's main building, accessible only to those with the highest security clearance. The elevator required both retinal scanning and voice confirmation before descending into the earth. "This is some serious security," Naruto commented as they descended. "Makes the Hokage's secret archives look like a public library." "One for All's history is complicated," Midnight explained. "Some of it intersects with dark chapters in Hero society that aren't widely known." The elevator doors opened to reveal a climate-controlled room with reinforced walls. Display cases contained artifacts, gloves, masks, fragments of costumes belonging to previous users. Digital terminals lined one wall, while traditional paper records filled secure cabinets along another. "Where do we even start?" Naruto wondered aloud, taking in the vast collection. With the vestiges, Midnight decided, approaching a central terminal. "Your dreams and visions of previous users are our most direct link to understanding what's happening." For the next 2 hours, they combed through records of past One for All users, their quirks, training methods, and experiences with the power. Midnight focused on the technical data, while Naruto was drawn to the personal journals and accounts. "Listen to this," he said, reading from a digitized journal. "The voices grow stronger as the power matures. Sometimes I feel them guiding my movements in battle, as if their experience flows through my muscles alongside their quirks." "Which user wrote that?" Midnight asked, looking up from her own terminal. "The third," Naruto replied. "But he only started experiencing it after having the power for 5 years. I got it instantly." Midnight frowned thoughtfully. "Keep looking for references to energy interactions or unusual manifestations." Another hour passed before Naruto found something promising. Here, the sixth user wrote about an encounter with a villain who had some kind of energy manipulation quirk. It temporarily accelerated his connection to the vestiges. Midnight moved to read over his shoulder, her proximity sending a distracting warmth through Naruto's awareness. Any details on the mechanism? Not really. Just that the villain's quirk resonated with the accumulated energy within One for All, creating a temporary harmonic that allowed greater access to its deeper aspects. Naruto looked up at her. Sounds kind of like what happened when my chakra mixed with One for All, except mine wasn't temporary. Your chakra must create a permanent harmonic resonance, Midnight theorized. Which explains why you can access all the vestiges and their quirks simultaneously. Great, so we know why it happened. But what about the connection they keep warning me about in my dreams? Midnight straightened, tapping her chin thoughtfully. Let's try a different approach. Search for references to dimensional energy or barriers between worlds. Would they even have those concepts? Naruto asked doubtfully. Dimensional travel wasn't a thing here until Kazuma showed up, right? Not explicitly, but there have always been theories. Quirks that manipulate spacetime, research into pocket dimensions. She paused. Actually, check if there's anything on the fourth user. I remember All Might mentioning he was unusually interested in quirk theory. Naruto accessed the records on the fourth One for All user, a serious-looking man with sharp features and intelligent eyes. His section contained extensive theoretical writings on quirk evolution and energy dynamics. Jackpot, Naruto murmured as he found a subsection labeled Metaphysical Boundaries and Energy Transference. The document was dense with equations and theoretical models, but one passage stood out: the power we call One for All exists partially outside conventional energy parameters. My research suggests it forms a bridge between our physical reality and something else, a dimension of pure energy that intersects with our own. The vestiges we experience may be manifestations of this intersection point, allowing consciousness to persist beyond physical death through energy conservation. That's... Midnight trailed off, reading the passage twice. If he's right, One for All itself is already a kind of dimensional bridge. And now it's merged with my chakra, which comes from a completely different dimension, Naruto added, the implications dawning on him. No wonder Kazuma called me the perfect bridge. But bridge to what? Midnight wondered. What's his ultimate goal? Before Naruto could respond, a strange sensation washed over him, similar to the vestige dreams but while fully awake. The archive room seemed to fade around him, replaced by swirling golden light. Naruto. Midnight's voice sounded distant, underwater. The 7 silhouettes appeared, more distinct than ever before. The one he recognized as the fourth user stepped forward. The circle nears completion, the figure said, voice echoing oddly. The dimensions align. What circle? Naruto demanded. What are you trying to tell me? One for All connects worlds, another vestige, the third, explained. Your chakra extends that bridge, making it stable, permanent. Kazuma seeks to use that bridge, the first user's voice came clear and strong. Not to travel between worlds, but to merge them completely. Merge them? Naruto repeated in shock. That's impossible. No, the fourth corrected grimly. Difficult, catastrophic, but not impossible. The dimensional barriers are weakening with each experiment. Your combined energy signature is the key he needs, the perfect fusion prototype. How do I stop him? Naruto asked desperately as the figures began to fade. Find the anchor points, the first user called, his form dissolving. 7 points where the dimensions naturally touch. Secure them before, the vision dissolved, reality snapping back into focus. Naruto found himself on the floor of the archive room, Midnight kneeling beside him with undisguised concern. With me? Naruto. She had one hand on his face, the other gripping his shoulder. I'm back, he gasped, sitting up slowly. I saw them, clearer than ever. He quickly relayed what the vestiges had told him, watching Midnight's expression grow increasingly grave. 7 anchor points, she repeated. Places where the dimensions naturally intersect. And Kazuma needs my energy signature to complete whatever he's doing, Naruto added grimly. That's why they want to capture me, not just for research, but for some kind of energy extraction. Midnight helped him to his feet, her hand lingering on his arm longer than strictly necessary. We need to take this to Principal Nizu immediately. If the vestiges are right about dimensional merging, we're facing something far worse than we imagined. As they gathered the relevant research and prepared to leave, Naruto found himself struck by a chilling realization. If he succeeds, he said quietly, I might never get home. There might not be a home to return to. Midnight met his gaze, her usual confidence tempered by the weight of this revelation. We won't let that happen. Whatever these anchor points are, we'll find them first. The certainty in her voice was reassuring, but as they left the archives, Naruto couldn't shake the image of the vestiges' warning. The circle nearing completion. The dimensions aligning. Time, it seemed, was running out. Principal Nizu called an emergency meeting that lasted well into the night. Government officials, top UA faculty, and scientific experts gathered to process the information from the archives and Naruto's vision. Dr. Kyudai Garaki, a leading quirk theorist, had been brought in to analyze the dimensional aspects. His hunched figure stood before a holographic display showing energy pattern comparisons. If we accept the vestige vision as accurate, he explained, adjusting his thick glasses, then these anchor points would manifest as locations with unusual energy readings, places where the fundamental forces behave anomalously. Like the site where Naruto first appeared, All Might suggested. Precisely, Garaki confirmed. That would likely be one such anchor point. The dimensional barrier would naturally be thinnest there. So we need to identify and secure 7 locations with similar energy signatures, Aizawa summarized. Before Kazuma can use them for whatever he's planning. The transparent government agent, who had introduced himself as Agent Shimura, frowned deeply. Our sensors have detected 3 anomalous energy zones in the past week. We assumed they were after effects of the original breach, but given this new information, they could be anchor points Kazuma has already identified. Midnight finished, her expression grim. Naruto, who had been uncharacteristically quiet during the meeting, finally spoke up. I think I can help find them. All eyes turned to him. The vestiges mentioned my energy signature is connected to these anchor points, he explained. If that's true, I might be able to sense them more effectively than your technology can. Dr. Garaki looked intrigued. A biological detector, sensitive to cross-dimensional resonance. Yes, that could work. It's worth trying, Nizu agreed. Agent Shimura, can your team transport Naruto to the known anomaly sites? See if he can confirm whether they're anchor points. The agent nodded reluctantly. We can arrange it for tomorrow. I'm going with him, Midnight stated, her tone making it clear this wasn't a request. As am I, Aizawa added unexpectedly. If these are potential target sites for Kazuma, maximum security is warranted. The meeting continued with detailed planning for the reconnaissance mission. By the time it concluded, it was well past midnight. As the participants filed out, Naruto found himself walking alongside Midnight and Aizawa in tired silence. Outside the building, Aizawa paused. Get some rest, both of you. Tomorrow will be challenging. After he left, Midnight turned to Naruto. You should eat something before sleeping. Your energy expenditure today was significant. Trying to mother me now? Naruto teased, though the exhaustion in his voice undercut the lightness he'd intended. Midnight's expression softened. Just looking out for my team. They walked toward the apartments in companionable silence, the weight of the day's revelations hanging between them. When they reached Naruto's door, he hesitated. Thanks, he said quietly. For believing me about the vestiges. Some of the others looked at me like I was making it up. I've been training with you for weeks, she replied. I've seen how one for all manifests in you, differently than in anyone else. If the vestiges are speaking to you this clearly, there's a reason. Something in her tone made Naruto look at her more closely. In the dim hallway lighting, her usual confident demeanor seemed muted, replaced by a vulnerability he rarely glimpsed. You're worried, he realized. Midnight sighed, leaning against the wall beside his door. Of course I am. Dimensional merging. 7 anchor points. Kazuma hunting you specifically? She shook her head. The stakes keep escalating, and we're barely keeping pace. Hey, Naruto said gently, we've got this. Between your team, the government agents, and my awesome powers, Kazuma doesn't stand a chance. A small smile curved her lips. Your confidence is either your greatest strength or your most dangerous flaw. I haven't decided which yet. Definitely strength, Naruto asserted. Never steered me wrong before. No. She raised an eyebrow. Not even when you charged headfirst into that villain attack your first day here. Worked out pretty well, didn't it? Got me one for all, a place at UA, and... He hesitated, then finished, and you as my teacher. Something flashed in her eyes, surprise, and something warmer. For a moment, neither spoke, the air between them charged with unspoken thoughts. Then Midnight straightened, professional persona sliding back into place. Get some rest, Naruto. 7 a.m. briefing tomorrow before we head out. She turned to go, but paused when Naruto spoke again. When this is over, he said, when we've stopped Kazuma and figured out the whole dimensional situation, what happens? She glanced back, understanding the unasked question. You mean, will you go home? Naruto nodded, surprised by his own uncertainty. A month ago, the answer would have been an unequivocal yes. Now. That's your decision to make when the time comes, she said quietly. But whatever you choose, you won't be facing it alone. With that promise hanging in the air between them, she continued down the hallway to her own apartment, leaving Naruto with thoughts more complicated than interdimensional threats. He entered his apartment, too tired to do more than grab a quick snack before collapsing into bed. As sleep claimed him, the vestige voices echoed in his mind, their warnings blending with memories of the day, Midnight's concern, the student's determination, and the looming shadow of Kazuma's plan. Tomorrow they would begin the hunt for anchor points, racing against a villain whose ultimate goal threatened 2 entire worlds. But tonight, Naruto's last conscious thought was of dark hair, intelligent eyes, and the surprising comfort of finding connection in a world not his own. Dawn broke with steel-gray clouds and a light drizzle that seemed fitting for the day's grim mission. Naruto met Midnight and Aizawa at UA's secure vehicle bay, where Agent Shimura waited with 2 black government SUVs. We've identified 3 potential anchor points based on energy readings, Shimura explained as they boarded. First stop is the original breach site where Uzumaki appeared. The drive took them to an unremarkable downtown intersection now cordoned off with government barriers. To casual observers, it looked like routine road maintenance. Only the sophisticated equipment and stern agents in civilian clothing hinted at something more significant. As Naruto stepped out of the vehicle, he immediately felt it, a subtle vibration in his chakra, like a tuning fork resonating with a distant note. This is definitely one, he confirmed, closing his eyes to better sense the energy. It feels thin here. Like the barrier between dimensions isn't as solid. Dr. Garaki, who had joined them for the investigation, nodded excitedly. Remarkable. Our instruments detect the anomaly, but you can actually feel it. Can you interact with it? Midnight asked. Strengthen the barrier somehow. Naruto concentrated, carefully channeling a mix of chakra and one for all energy toward the sensation. To his surprise, the resonance responded, strengthening slightly. I think I can, he said slowly. It's like patching a leak. The energy wants to stay separate naturally. For the next hour, Naruto worked with Dr. Garaki to stabilize the anchor point. By channeling specific energy patterns guided by the doctor's readings, they managed to significantly reinforce the dimensional barrier at that location. 1 down, 6 to go, Aizawa noted as they prepared to move to the next site. The second location was an abandoned power plant on the city outskirts. As they approached, Naruto's uneasiness grew. This anchor point felt different, agitated, unstable. Something's wrong here, he warned as they exited the vehicles. The energy's been tampered with. Agent Shimura immediately signaled his team to establish a perimeter. Possible hostile activity. Stay alert. They approached cautiously. The facility's main building was dilapidated, windows broken and equipment rusted. But nestled among the decay was something distinctly out of place, a sleek metallic structure resembling a satellite dish pointed skyward. That's not original equipment, Midnight observed quietly. No, Aizawa agreed, his capture weapon readied. Someone's been here. Dr. Garaki scanned the device with handheld equipment. It's some kind of energy amplifier. Designed to widen the dimensional breach rather than seal it. Kazuma, Naruto growled. He's already working on the anchor points. Before they could decide how to proceed, Naruto's danger sense flared violently. Ambush, he shouted, just as figures emerged from hiding places throughout the facility. A dozen assailants in black tactical gear surrounded them. At their center stood the scale-covered woman from the UA attack, her metallic skin gleaming dully in the morning light. Right on schedule, she called out, her harmonic voice carrying easily across the distance. Uzumaki, how considerate of you to deliver yourself to us. Agent Shimura's team moved into defensive formation, quirks activated and weapons drawn. Midnight positioned herself beside Naruto while Aizawa faced the scale woman directly. Surrender, Aizawa demanded, his eyes glowing red as he activated erasure. You're outnumbered. The woman laughed, completely unfazed by his quirk. Am I? Check your targets, Eraserhead. To their horror, half of Shimura's agents suddenly turned their weapons on their colleagues. The betrayal happened so quickly that 3 loyal agents were subdued before anyone could react. Infiltration at every level, the woman gloated. Kazuma's reach extends further than you imagine. Chaos erupted as the remaining loyal agents engaged with the traitors. Midnight ripped her sleeve, releasing her sedation quirk to cover their position. Naruto, stay back, she ordered. If they capture you, not happening. He created a dozen shadow clones that immediately joined the fray, targeting the turncoat agents with non-lethal takedowns. Aizawa launched himself at the scale woman, his capture weapon wrapping around her arm. She simply smiled, the metal in her skin sharpening into blades that sliced through his weapon. My quirk isn't like the others, she explained. Metamorphosis is physical, not emitter-based. Your erasure is useless. She thrust her hand forward, fingers elongating into metal spears that Aizawa barely dodged. Behind her, 2 enemies were approaching the strange device, clearly intending to activate it. The amplifier. Naruto shouted. They're trying to trigger it. Midnight had just subdued 2 traitorous agents when she spotted the danger. Cover me, she called to Naruto, sprinting toward the device. The scale woman noticed immediately. Stop her, she commanded, sending 3 henchmen to intercept. Naruto activated Float and Black Whip simultaneously, launching himself over the battlefield and extending dark energy tendrils to clear Midnight's path. 2 enemies went down, but the third managed to fire some kind of energy weapon. Time seemed to slow as Naruto saw the energy bolt heading straight for Midnight's unprotected back. Without conscious thought, he redirected himself mid-air, throwing his body into the bolt's path. Pain exploded through his system as the energy connected, sending him crashing into a wall of rusted machinery. His vision blurred, One for All's power fluctuating wildly from the disruption. Through the haze, he saw Midnight reach the device and begin tearing into its control panel. The scale woman screamed in fury, launching herself toward her with bladed arms extended. Aizawa intercepted her, taking a deep slash across his shoulder but managing to entangle her with his remaining capture weapon. Agent Shimura and his loyal forces had gained the upper hand against the traitors, but the situation remained chaotic. Naruto forced himself upright, ignoring the burning pain across his torso. Drawing on Kurama's chakra to accelerate healing, he focused on the anchor point itself. If Midnight could disable the device, he could still stabilize the dimensional barrier. He staggered forward, channeling energy through his palm toward the center of the resonance he could feel. One of the vestiges, the fourth, seemed to guide his movements, showing him how to weave One for All's power into the fabric of reality itself. The Scale Woman saw what he was attempting. "No!" she shrieked, breaking free from Aizawa with a desperate surge of strength. She charged directly at Naruto, her entire body transforming into a mass of bladed metal. Midnight intercepted her, using a move Naruto had never seen before, a precise strike to a pressure point that briefly disrupted the woman's quirk control. The metal receded just enough for Midnight to get inside her guard, releasing sedation mist directly into her face. The woman stumbled, her movements slowing, but her momentum carried her forward. One metal blade caught Midnight across the arm, drawing a line of crimson. Something snapped inside Naruto at the sight of Midnight's blood. Rage surged through him, Kurama's energy mixing with One for All in a dangerous combination. His eyes flashed, chakra cloak beginning to form around his body. "Naruto, don't!" Midnight shouted, recognizing the dangerous power surge. "Stick to the plan." Her voice cut through the rage, anchoring him. With tremendous effort, Naruto redirected the combined energy toward the dimensional anchor instead of the enemy. A pulse of blue-green power shot from his hands into the center of the resonance point. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The air seemed to ripple, the amplifier device sparking and smoking as its programming was overwhelmed. The Scale Woman collapsed, finally succumbing to Midnight's quirk, while the remaining enemies found themselves suddenly cut off from whatever energy had been enhancing their abilities. Within minutes, the government forces had subdued all hostiles. Aizawa secured the Scale Woman with specialized restraints while medical personnel attended to the injured. Naruto sank to his knees, exhaustion washing over him as the adrenaline faded. Midnight was at his side instantly, her own injury seemingly forgotten. "That was reckless," she chided, though her tone held more concern than anger. "Taking that hit for me," says the woman who jumped between me and a metal blade tornado, Naruto countered weakly. Despite everything, she smiled. "We make quite a team." "Yeah," he agreed, looking up at her with newfound appreciation. "We really do." Dr. Garaki approached, excitement visible despite the chaos around them. "Remarkable work, Uzumaki. You've not only stabilized this anchor point but strengthened it beyond its original state. The dimensional barrier here is now more robust than normal baseline readings." "Two down," Naruto said, allowing Midnight to help him to his feet. 5 to go. Agent Shimura joined them, his transparent skin showing the outline of a frown. "This ambush changes things. We have confirmation of infiltration at governmental levels. The remaining anchor points may be compromised as well. We need to move quickly," Aizawa agreed, blood seeping through the makeshift bandage on his shoulder. "Before Kazuma realizes we can not only find the anchor points but reinforce them." As the cleanup operation continued around them, Midnight drew Naruto aside, her expression serious. "That power surge when I was injured, what was that?" Naruto hesitated. He'd never fully explained Kurama to her or any of the UA staff. "It's complicated. Remember when I mentioned the nine tails sealed inside me? The chakra beast," she recalled. "Kurama. Yeah. When my emotions spike, especially anger or fear, his chakra sometimes leaks through. Combined with One for All." He shrugged. "It's intense." Midnight studied him carefully. "You controlled it, though. Redirected it to the anchor point instead of lashing out." "Barely," Naruto admitted. "If you hadn't called out to me." She placed a hand on his arm, her touch steadying. But I did, and you listened. That's what matters. Something in her confidence bolstered him. The connection between them had deepened through battle, through shared purpose and mutual protection. It wasn't the same as his bonds in Konoha, but it was becoming just as meaningful in its own way. We should get your arm looked at, Naruto said, nodding toward her injury. It's superficial, she dismissed, though she allowed him to guide her toward the medical team. I've had worse paper cuts grading essays. As they walked, Agent Shimura approached with fresh intel. We've confirmed the location of the third anchor point, but satellite imagery shows activity there as well. We need to move immediately. No rest for the heroic, Midnight sighed, accepting a quick field dressing for her arm. Where to next? An observatory in the mountains, Shimura replied. Approximately 2 hours from here. Naruto exchanged a determined look with Midnight and Aizawa. Then let's go. We're not letting Kazuma get another anchor point. As they prepared to depart, Naruto felt the vestige presences stronger than ever, their approval radiating through his consciousness. For the first time since arriving in this world, he felt certain of his purpose here, not just finding a way home, but protecting both worlds from a threat only he was uniquely positioned to counter. And with Midnight by his side, that purpose felt not just important, but right. Chapter 3, Heroes United. Mountain observatories were supposed to be peaceful. Quiet places where scientists studied distant stars, far removed from the chaos of cities and villain attacks. The Muzurake Observatory, nestled in Japan's northern mountains, had been exactly that, until today. Naruto crouched behind a fallen telescope mount, blood trickling from a cut above his eye as he assessed the battlefield. What should have been their third successful anchor point mission had turned into a full-blown disaster. We've got at least 30 hostiles, he reported to Midnight, who was bandaging Aizawa's freshly reopened shoulder wound. And that's not counting whatever the hell those things are. He gestured toward the bizarre creatures prowling the observatory grounds, humanoid forms that seemed partially composed of swirling energy, neither fully solid nor completely intangible. They moved with unnatural speed, immune to conventional attacks. Energy constructs, Dr. Garaki wheezed from his position behind an overturned equipment cart. The Quirk researcher had insisted on accompanying them despite the obvious dangers. Kazuma is manipulating the dimensional barrier directly now. Agent Shimura's team had been scattered, communications jammed. 3 of their vehicles were burning wrecks in the parking lot. Whatever intelligence Kazuma's forces had, it had been comprehensive. They'd walked straight into an ambush far more sophisticated than the power plant trap. This was a setup from the start, Aizawa growled, wincing as Midnight tied off his bandage. They leaked the anchor point locations deliberately. Midnight's usual composure was fraying at the edges, her costume torn and dust-streaked. We need backup. If we could just get a signal out, working on it, Naruto assured her, creating another shadow clone. This one immediately activated Smokescreen, the 7th vestige's quirk, creating a thick fog to cover its movement as it attempted to reach higher ground for better transmission. Clever, Midnight acknowledged with a tight smile. But we still need to reach the anchor point itself. Naruto nodded toward the observatory's central dome. It's in there. I can feel it. The massive telescope dome had been transformed. Kazuma's forces had erected a complex apparatus around it, metal spires crowned with pulsing energy relays that formed a perfect circle. At the center stood a figure Naruto recognized immediately, the masked infiltrator from the UA attack. We need a plan, Aizawa said, forcing himself upright despite his injury. Frontal assault won't work with those energy constructs. Naruto closed his eyes briefly, reaching for the vestige presence that had been growing stronger throughout the day. The first one for all user responded immediately, his essence flowing through Naruto's consciousness with tactical clarity. I've got one, Naruto said, opening his eyes. But you're not gonna like it. Midnight recognized his expression immediately. Whatever reckless idea you're considering, me and 5 shadow clones create a diversion, Naruto continued undeterred. Big, flashy, impossible to ignore. While they're focused on us, you and Aizawa circle around through the maintenance tunnels Dr. Garaki mentioned. And the energy constructs? Aizawa questioned. They're drawn to quirk energy, not chakra, Naruto explained. If I use mainly ninja techniques for the diversion, they'll be less interested. Meanwhile, you both suppress your quirks until you're in position to strike. Midnight and Aizawa exchanged glances, a silent communication born from years of professional partnership. It could work, Aizawa conceded. But the diversion would leave you extremely exposed. Naruto grinned despite the gravity of the situation. Hey, drawing attention is what I do best. That's what worries me, Midnight said quietly, her eyes holding his for a moment longer than necessary. An explosion from the parking area signaled the enemy's renewed search for them. Time was running out. 3 minutes, Naruto said. Then I start the show. Get to the tunnels and be ready. Midnight hesitated, then placed a hand on his cheek, her touch leaving a smear of dirt and who knew what else. Don't die, Uzumaki. Wouldn't dream of it, he replied, the brief contact sending a warmth through him that had nothing to do with chakra or quirks. As Midnight and Aizawa slipped away with Dr. Garaki between them, Naruto prepared himself. He created 5 shadow clones, each nodding in silent understanding of the plan. They would use primarily taijutsu and basic ninja techniques, minimal one for all to avoid attracting the energy constructs. When 3 minutes had passed, Naruto took a deep breath. Showtime. He and his clones burst from cover simultaneously, launching into the air with chakra-enhanced jumps that carried them over the defensive perimeter Kazuma's forces had established. They landed in a loose pentagon formation, directly in view of the central apparatus. Hey, mask face! Naruto shouted at the figure by the telescope. Remember me? The guy whose lab you trashed. The masked figure turned slowly. Uzumaki. You're earlier than anticipated. Yeah, well, I'm not big on sticking to other people's schedules, Naruto shot back, keeping the attention focused on him while scanning for signs of Midnight and Aizawa's progress. Wanna tell me what that contraption does? Or should I just smash it and find out? The figure's digitally altered laugh echoed across the observatory grounds. By all means, try. Each piece is calibrated to your unique energy signature. Touch it, and you'll only accelerate our work. Around them, Kazuma's forces were mobilizing, human operatives taking up positions while the energy constructs shifted restlessly, seemingly confused by the predominance of chakra over quirk energy in Naruto's current state. Where's your boss? Naruto demanded, keeping the conversation going. Too scared to face me himself. Kazuma has more important matters to attend to, the figure replied. The final preparations require his personal touch. That confirmed Naruto's suspicions, this was just one part of a larger plan. The masked lieutenant gestured, and a dozen operatives advanced toward Naruto and his clones. Take him alive, the figure ordered. Minimal damage. Naruto smirked. Alive I can do. Undamaged. His clones dropped into fighting stances. No promises. The battle erupted with Naruto and his clones unleashing a barrage of taijutsu attacks. They whirled through Kazuma's forces like orange tornadoes, each movement calculated to appear flashy and threatening while conserving actual power. The real objective wasn't to win this fight, it was to hold attention while Midnight and Aizawa positioned themselves. 3 minutes into the chaos, Naruto spotted their signal, a brief flash of light from a service door near the base of the telescope dome. They were in position. Time to escalate. You guys aren't even trying, Naruto taunted, deliberately channeling a small burst of one for all. The green lightning crackled around him, immediately drawing the attention of the energy constructs. Let's kick this up a notch. The constructs abandoned their patrol patterns, converging on the new quirk energy source. Exactly as planned. Naruto and his clones separated, each racing in different directions. The construct split up in pursuit, drawn away from the central apparatus, and more importantly, away from where Midnight and Aizawa were now advancing from the shadows. The masked figure noticed too late. The dome. Check the maintenance access. But Aizawa was already in position, his capture weapon whipping out to entangle two guards before they could react. Midnight moved like a shadow herself, her combat prowess on full display as she disabled three more with precise strikes before they could activate their quirks. The masked figure rushed toward them, hands raising devices that glowed with ominous energy. Naruto created three more shadow clones to intercept, channeling more one for all to ensure the lieutenant's attention stayed divided. At the heart of the chaos, Dr. Garaki had reached the control panel of the apparatus. His fingers flew over the interface, attempting to deactivate whatever sequence Kazuma had initiated. "It's locked," the doctor called out. "I can't override it." Naruto fought his way closer to the central dome, dispatching enemies with increasingly creative combinations of chakra and selective quirk applications. "What's it doing?" "It's a tether." Garaki shouted back, dodging energy fire. "It's using the anchor point to establish a permanent connection to your world." The implications hit Naruto like a physical blow. If Kazuma succeeded in stabilizing artificial tethers at all 7 anchor points, the dimensional merger would become inevitable. The masked figure had broken free of the clone. Assault and was now engaged with Aizawa, whose injury was clearly hampering his movements. Midnight had reached the apparatus but was struggling to damage the reinforced components. "Naruto," she called. "We need to destabilize the anchor point itself." He understood immediately. The artificial tether was designed to hold the dimensional barrier open, but if he could oversaturate the anchor point with his combined energy, he might be able to temporarily collapse it, rendering the tether useless. But there was a risk. A big one. "If I destabilize it, I might not be able to restore it later," he shouted back, knocking aside 2 attackers. "It could permanently damage the connection between worlds." Midnight's eyes met his across the battlefield, understanding the unspoken consequence, potentially cutting off his path home forever. Her hesitation was brief but noticeable. "Do it," she finally commanded. "We don't have a choice." Naruto fought his way to the center of the apparatus, directly beneath the massive telescope. He could feel the anchor point pulsing now, its natural resonance disrupted by Kazuma's technology. The tether was growing stronger by the second. He dismissed his remaining clones, needing all his chakra for what came next. Closing his eyes, he reached deep within, drawing on both one for all and his own chakra in perfect balance. Within his mindscape, the vestiges appeared, 7 silhouettes lending their strength and knowledge. "Guide me," Naruto whispered. Power surged through him, not the wild, destructive force he'd nearly unleashed at the power plant, but something more controlled, more precise. One for All's green lightning merged with his blue chakra, creating a swirling teal energy that enveloped his body. With a roar of effort, Naruto slammed both palms against the ground directly beneath the anchor point. The energy discharge was blinding, a column of teal light shooting upward through the apparatus and into the sky above the observatory. The masked figure screamed in rage. "No! The tether!" The apparatus components began to overload, circuits frying and metal warping. The energy constructs dissolved like smoke in a strong wind. For a moment, reality itself seemed to waver, images of another world, trees, mountains that didn't belong to this landscape, flickering briefly into existence before fading. Naruto maintained the energy flow, sweat pouring down his face as he pushed his combined powers to their limit. Through the strain, he sensed the anchor point responding, collapsing inward, the dimensional barrier thickening rather than thinning. Just as his strength began to fail, a hand gripped his shoulder, Midnight, lending support, her own energy somehow complementing his. On his other side appeared Aizawa, then Dr. Garaki. Agent Shimura emerged from the building with his remaining forces, adding their presence to the effort. With one final surge, the anchor point sealed, the artificial tether shattering in a cascade of failing energy. The apparatus exploded outward, components disintegrating as the dimensional forces rebalanced. Naruto collapsed backward, caught by midnight before he could hit the ground. Around them, Kazuma's forces were retreating, their mission failed. The masked figure stood alone amid the destruction, seemingly unmoved by the defeat. This changes nothing, Uzumaki. Kazuma has already secured 4 anchor points. This is merely a delay. Before anyone could apprehend them, the figure activated some kind of transport quirk, their form blurring before vanishing entirely. In the sudden quiet, Naruto looked up at Midnight, whose arms still supported him. Did we win or lose? I can't tell. Despite everything, she smiled. We stopped them here. That's a win. The smile faded as she helped him sit up. But if they've secured 4 other anchor points already. We're running out of time, Aizawa finished grimly, clutching his injured shoulder. Dr. Garaki was examining the remains of the apparatus with fascination. They're more advanced than we realized. This technology, it's a hybrid of our world's science and something else. Chakra-based tech from my world, Naruto confirmed, struggling to his feet with Midnight's assistance. Kazuma's been planning this for years. Agent Shimura approached, his transparent features strained. We've re-established communications. Reports are coming in of similar installations at locations worldwide. This isn't just a local threat anymore. Worldwide? Midnight echoed, the full scale of their challenge becoming clear. Naruto closed his eyes, reaching again for the vestige presence. The remaining anchor points. I think I can sense them now. After connecting to this one so deeply. Where? Agent Shimura demanded. One's in America. New York, I think. Another in what feels like a desert. The third. Naruto concentrated harder. Water. An ocean, maybe. And the last. His eyes snapped open. UA. There's an anchor point at UA. The realization struck them all simultaneously. Kazuma's repeated interest in the school hadn't just been about research data or Naruto himself. We need to get back, Aizawa said, already moving toward the remaining vehicle. Now. As they raced down the mountain, Midnight's phone finally reconnected to the network. It immediately exploded with alerts and messages. Multiple villain attacks across the city, she reported, scrolling through the updates. Coordinated strikes at hero agencies and government buildings. She looked up, face pale. UA is under direct assault. All available heroes have been called in. Naruto's grip tightened on the seat. It's a distraction. Kazuma is making his final move while heroes are spread thin. I've requested emergency transport, Agent Shimura said from the driver's seat. Helicopter will meet us at the base of the mountain. ETA to UA, 30 minutes. Too long, Naruto muttered. He turned to Midnight. The students, our team, are they at UA? She checked her messages. Yes. Midoriya, Yaoyorozu, and Uraraka were in training when the attack began. They're helping with evacuation. Naruto made his decision instantly. I'm not waiting for a helicopter. He opened the vehicle door despite their speed. Naruto. Midnight grabbed his arm. What are you doing? Getting to UA faster, he replied. Float quirk combined with one for all strength, I can make it in 10 minutes. You're exhausted from the anchor point, she protested. You can't, I have to, he cut her off, his expression resolute. If Kazuma secures that anchor point, everything we've done means nothing. Their eyes locked, 1,000 unspoken words passing between them. Then Midnight made her own decision. I'm coming with you, she stated, leaving no room for argument. Aizawa? The Erasure hero shook his head. I'll be more useful with the reinforcements. My injury would slow you down. Naruto nodded, accepting this logic. Meet us there. He turned to Midnight. Ready for the ride of your life, sensei? Despite everything, her lips quirked. I was about to ask you the same thing. They leapt from the vehicle, Naruto immediately activating float and wrapping one arm firmly around Midnight's waist. With his other hand, he created a Rasengan infused with one for all energy. Hang on, he warned. Using the spiraling energy sphere as propulsion, they launched into the sky at incredible speed. Midnight's arms tightened around his neck, her body pressed against his as they soared above the landscape. This is either the most brilliant or most idiotic transportation method I've ever experienced, she shouted over the wind. Naruto grinned despite the strain. Why not both? They flew toward UA at speeds that would make even the most experienced heroes nervous, Naruto constantly adjusting their trajectory with controlled bursts of his combined powers. Below, they could see the spreading chaos, villain attacks, hero responses, civilians being evacuated from affected areas. But as they approached UA, the true scale of the situation became clear. The school was surrounded by what could only be described as a war zone. Heroes fought villains across the campus grounds, explosions and quirk manifestations lighting up the afternoon sky. A shimmering energy field had been erected around the central building, not UA's normal defenses, but something new and ominous. There, Naruto pointed to a specific spot near the training facilities. That's where the anchor point is. He could see figures gathered there, Kazuma's forces constructing another apparatus similar to the one at the observatory. And at the center, directing the operation, stood a familiar figure. Kazuma, Naruto growled, his first clear sighting of the dimensional villain since their initial encounter. Midnight followed his gaze. We need a plan. We can't just drop in without, actually, that's exactly what we're going to do, Naruto countered. Direct approach, maximum surprise. Before she could argue, he adjusted their course, accelerating toward the villain's position with reckless speed. As they descended, Naruto created 20 shadow clones in midair, each activating different quirk combinations. Scatter, he commanded them, and the clones dispersed, targeting different parts of Kazuma's operation. The villain looked up just in time to see Naruto and Midnight plummeting toward him. His expression showed not fear but satisfaction. Right on time, Uzumaki, he called out. I was beginning to think I'd have to come find you myself. Naruto landed hard, deliberately creating a crater that disrupted the nearest apparatus components. Midnight rolled free from his grip, immediately engaging two nearby enemies with practiced efficiency. Whatever you're planning stops now, Kazuma. Naruto shouted, green lightning crackling around him. The villain looked different than Naruto remembered, his skin now marked with glowing circuit-like patterns, eyes unnaturally bright. Power radiated from him in waves that distorted the air itself. Stop. Kazuma laughed. We're far beyond that possibility, Naruto. The process has already begun. He gestured toward the sky, and for the first time, Naruto noticed the subtle distortion, a wavering, like heat mirages but covering the entire visible atmosphere. For anchor points secured, their tethers active and synchronized. When this fifth one activates, the dimensional merger enters its final phase. Around the perimeter of the battle, pro-heroes were engaged with Kazuma's forces. Naruto spotted Midoriya, Yaoyorozu, and Uraraka fighting alongside Present Mic and Cementos, keeping enemy reinforcements at bay. All Might was visible in the distance, a blur of motion as he cleared a path through the chaos. Even if I believed that was possible, Naruto countered, carefully moving to position himself between Kazuma and the anchor point he could sense. Why would you want to merge our worlds? The chaos would be unimaginable. Chaos? Kazuma's expression turned reverent. No, Naruto. Transcendence. Imagine a world where chakra and quirks coexist, where both energies flow freely through every living being. The evolutionary leap would be beyond comprehension. At what cost? Midnight demanded, subduing her opponents and joining Naruto. How many would die in the transition? Kazuma regarded her with something like pity. The weak, certainly. But those who survive, those like Naruto here, who can adapt to both energy systems, they will become something greater than either world has ever known. You're insane, Naruto stated flatly. You're talking about sacrificing billions of lives for your twisted evolution fantasy. I'm talking about salvation. Kazuma's calm demeanor cracked slightly. Both our worlds face extinction from their own internal threats. Yours from the cycle of hatred and war that birthed the Akatsuki and worse. This world from the increasing instability of quirk evolution and societal division. He spread his arms, the glowing patterns brightening. Together, united under a new paradigm, humanity transcends these petty divisions. I've seen it, Naruto. In the dimensional breach, I glimpsed the potential future. And appointed yourself its god. Midnight's tone dripped with disgust. Someone must guide the transition, Kazuma replied simply. Who better than the one who discovered the possibility? While they talked, Naruto had been subtly channeling energy, preparing for what needed to be done. The anchor point beneath them pulsed with growing instability as Kazuma's apparatus neared completion despite the hero intervention. You're right about one thing, Naruto said, drawing Kazuma's full attention. I have adapted to both energy systems. But not for the purpose you imagine. Without warning, Naruto activated all 7 quirks simultaneously, something he'd never attempted before. The power surge was staggering, his body briefly glowing with combined energies. Danger sense heightened his perception to near precognitive levels. Black whip extended from both arms, while float lifted him slightly off the ground. Smoke screen created a defensive perimeter. Fa Gene stored the kinetic energy for what would come next. Kazuma's eyes widened in genuine surprise. Remarkable. You've mastered them all. Not mastered, Naruto corrected, the strain evident in his voice. Harmonized. He looked at Midnight, a silent message passing between them. She understood immediately, disengaging from her current opponent and moving to guard his flank. Whatever you're planning, it won't work, Kazuma warned, his own power building visibly. The anchor point responds to your energy signature. Any attempt to disrupt it will only accelerate the process. I'm counting on that, Naruto replied. In one explosive movement, he slammed both hands into the ground directly above the anchor point. But instead of trying to destabilize it as he had at the observatory, he did the opposite, pouring controlled, carefully calibrated energy into the dimensional nexus. Kazuma realized too late what was happening. No. You'll overload the synchronization matrix. The apparatus components began to vibrate, their carefully tuned frequencies disrupted by Naruto's intervention. Above them, the atmospheric distortion intensified, reality itself seeming to flex and warp. Midnight. Naruto shouted through gritted teeth. Get everyone back. 50-meter perimeter. She hesitated for only a fraction of a second before racing to coordinate the evacuation, her voice carrying clear commands across the battlefield. Pro-heroes began pulling back, creating the requested space while continuing to hold off Kazuma's forces. Kazuma himself moved toward Naruto, desperation evident in his movements. Stop. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly, Naruto countered, maintaining the energy flow despite the increasing pain it caused. I'm not destroying the anchor point. I'm recalibrating it. The truth dawned in Kazuma's eyes. The vestige consciousness. They taught you how. They showed me what you missed, Naruto confirmed. These anchor points aren't meant for merger, but for balance. They're natural pressure valves between dimensions. Around them, the apparatus began to fail, components burning out as the anchor point's resonance shifted to a new frequency, one incompatible with Kazuma's tether design. The villain launched himself at Naruto in a last desperate attempt to stop the process, only to be intercepted by a massive figure landing between them. I believe that's quite far enough, All Might announced, his perpetual smile somehow more menacing than reassuring as he faced Kazuma. The villain's enhanced strength was impressive, but against the symbol of peace, it proved insufficient. Their clash was brief but decisive, ending with Kazuma embedded in a crater several meters away. Young Uzumaki. All Might turned to Naruto, concern evident beneath his heroic demeanor. What can I do? Keep him away from me for another minute, Naruto gasped, the strain of maintaining the energy flow taking its toll. I'm almost there. All Might nodded, returning his attention to Kazuma, who was already extracting himself from the crater, power still radiating from his transformed body. Your interference changes nothing, the villain shouted, though doubt had crept into his voice. The other anchor points remained secured. Not for long, Naruto replied through gritted teeth. What I'm doing here is creating a cascading resonance. When this anchor point stabilizes in its natural state, the others will follow. It was a desperate gamble based on the vestige knowledge and his own intuitive understanding of how the anchor points connected. If he was wrong, the backlash could be catastrophic. The energy flowing through Naruto intensified, the combined power of One for All and his chakra network reaching levels that threatened to tear him apart from within. His vision blurred, blood trickling from his nose as he pushed beyond safe limits. Just when it seemed he might lose control, a hand gripped his shoulder. Midnight knelt beside him, her presence somehow steadying the chaotic energies. You're not doing this alone, she said firmly. More figures joined them, Midoriya, channeling his own version of One for All, Yaoyorozu, creating support structures to stabilize the energy flow, Uraraka, using her quirk to reduce the gravitational stress on the anchor point. Aizawa arrived with the reinforcements, his erasure quirk periodically resetting the cascade when it threatened to spike dangerously. Together, Naruto managed through the pain, drawing strength from their united effort. With one final surge, the anchor point's resonance locked into its natural frequency. The apparatus failed completely, components disintegrating as the dimensional energies rebalanced. A pulse of pure white light erupted from the point, expanding outward in a perfect sphere that passed harmlessly through living beings but disrupted Kazuma's technology wherever it touched. In the sky above, the atmospheric distortion shuddered and then clarified, reality snapping back into proper alignment. Reports began coming in immediately, the same effect occurring at other anchor points worldwide, Kazuma's tethers failing simultaneously. The villain himself stared in disbelief, watching his years of work unravel in moments. No. No. Do you have any idea what you've done? Saved 2 worlds, Naruto replied, rising shakily to his feet with Midnight's support. And maybe found a better way forward. Kazuma's transformation was destabilizing, the glowing patterns on his skin fluctuating wildly. You've doomed us all to separation and eventual extinction. No, Naruto countered. I've restored balance. The anchor points are still there, still connecting our worlds, just not in the way you intended. Understanding dawned in Kazuma's eyes. You've created stable bridges rather than a merger. Controlled, limited connections, Naruto confirmed. Strong enough for passage, but not for full-dimensional collision. The full implications settled over the battlefield as heroes subdued the remaining villains. Kazuma himself seemed to deflate, his enhanced power fading as the energy he'd absorbed dissipated. You still don't see the bigger picture, he said quietly as All Might secured him with specialized restraints. Both our worlds face threats beyond your imagining. Then we'll face them together, Naruto replied. As allies, not as a single merged entity. As Kazuma was led away, the immediate crisis concluded, Naruto finally allowed himself to acknowledge the full extent of his exhaustion. He swayed on his feet, consciousness threatening to desert him entirely. Midnight caught him before he could fall, her arms wrapping securely around his waist. Easy there, hero. You've done enough for one day. Did it work? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The other anchor points. Reports confirming stabilization worldwide, Aizawa reported, approaching with his phone displaying updates. Whatever you did, it propagated through all 7 points. Relief washed over Naruto, quickly followed by a more complicated emotion as the full reality of what he'd accomplished settled in. He turned to Midnight, whose expression reflected a similar understanding. I didn't close the connections, he said quietly. I stabilized them. She nodded, the implications clear in her eyes. Which means, I can go home, he finished. But I can also come back. Something shifted in her expression, relief, joy, and perhaps something deeper that neither was ready to name outright. Her hand found his, fingers intertwining naturally. We should get you to recovery, girl, she said instead of addressing the emotional undercurrent. You've pushed your powers well beyond safe limits. As they made their way toward the UA main building, the aftermath of battle still chaotic around them, Midoriya fell into step beside them. That was incredible, Naruto-san, he said, green eyes wide with admiration despite his own battle-worn appearance. The way you synchronized the anchor point's natural frequency, I've never seen anything like it. Couldn't have done it without you guys, Naruto replied honestly. That team effort at the end made the difference. Yaoyorozu and Uraraka joined them, both looking exhausted but satisfied. Does this mean the dimensional threat is over? Yaoyorozu asked. The immediate crisis, yes, Midnight confirmed. But there's still Kazuma's organization to dismantle, and the anchor points will need monitoring. And research, Naruto added. Now that they're stable, we can actually study them properly. Maybe even develop safe travel protocols between dimensions. The implications hung in the air between them, a future of possibilities rather than a single destructive event. For the first time since his arrival in this world, Naruto could see a path forward that didn't require choosing between his old home and his new connections. Recovery Girl treated the injured heroes with her usual mix of professional efficiency and grandmotherly scolding. Naruto received a particularly stern lecture about energy system strain that he only half listened to, his mind already racing with next steps. As night fell over UA, the immediate cleanup concluded and security re-established, Naruto found himself on the roof of the main building. The stars above seemed brighter somehow, as if the stabilized dimensional barrier had clarified more than just physical reality. Footsteps behind him announced Midnight's arrival. She'd changed from her battle-damaged costume into casual clothes, jeans and a simple black top that reminded him of their breakfast conversation that now seemed a lifetime ago. Thought I might find you up here, she said, joining him at the railing. Contemplating your interdimensional future. Naruto smiled at her perceptiveness. Something like that. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the events of the day settling between them. So, she finally said, what happens now? It was the question he'd been asking himself since the anchor point stabilized. I need to go back, at least briefly, he replied honestly. They need to know I'm alive, what happened, what we discovered. Midnight nodded, her expression carefully neutral. Of course. But I'm coming back, he continued, turning to face her fully. There's still work to do here. The anchor points need protection, Kazuma's remaining followers are still out there, and... He hesitated, then finished, and there are people here I'm not ready to say goodbye to. Something softened in her expression. Just, people, huh? Well, some more than others, he admitted with a slight smile. One in particular who's been a pretty amazing teacher. Just a teacher, she challenged, stepping closer. Naruto's heartbeat quickened at her proximity. Maybe more than that. If she's interested. Midnight's smile held none of her usual teasing quality, just genuine warmth that reached her eyes. She's definitely interested. Has been for a while now. The admission hung in the air between them, charged with possibilities neither had allowed themselves to fully acknowledge until this moment. You know, in my world, relationships between teachers and students are pretty frowned upon, Naruto said conversationally, even as he closed the distance between them. Fortunately for us, you're technically an interdimensional consultant now, not a student, Midnight replied, her hand coming to rest lightly on his chest. And I've been reassigned as your liaison officer rather than instructor. Convenient technicality, Naruto murmured, his hands finding her waist. I thought so, she agreed, tilting her face up toward his. When their lips finally met, it felt like the natural conclusion to a journey neither had anticipated. The kiss deepened quickly, months of tension and growing connection crystallizing into something both powerful and tender. When they eventually separated, both slightly breathless, Naruto rested his forehead against hers. "So, Namuri Kayama, think you can handle dating a guy who splits his time between dimensions?" She laughed softly. "After everything we've been through? That might be the easiest challenge yet." They remained on the rooftop late into the night, discussing plans, possibilities, and the unique future that had opened before them. The stable anchor points meant regular travel between worlds would be possible, complicated, requiring energy control and precise timing, but feasible. "I was thinking," Naruto said as they watched the stars, his arm around her shoulders, "maybe some kind of exchange program eventually. Heroes from your world learning ninja techniques, shinobi studying quirk-based combat. Already planning interdimensional diplomacy," she teased. "Ambitious. Hey, future Hokage, remember," he replied with a grin. "Thinking big comes with the territory." Midnight's expression turned more serious. "It won't be easy, you know. There will be people in both worlds who fear this connection, who might try to exploit it." "Good thing we've got heroes on both sides then," Naruto countered. "And I happen to know some of the best." She smiled at that, leaning into his embrace. "When will you go?" "Tomorrow," he decided. "The sooner I explain everything to the Leaf Village, the better. But I won't be gone long, 3 days at most." "I'll hold you to that," she warned, though her tone remained light. "Miss the team training session I've scheduled, and there will be consequences." Naruto laughed. "Wouldn't dream of it, sensei." As dawn began to lighten the eastern sky, they finally returned inside to prepare for the day ahead. There would be debriefings, reports, and preparations for Naruto's dimensional crossing, the first of many, if everything went according to plan. The following morning, a small group gathered at the UA anchor point, now secured with proper monitoring equipment rather than Kazuma's destructive apparatus. All Might, Aizawa, Principal Nizu, and the student team members watched as Dr. Garaki made final adjustments to the equipment designed to focus the dimensional resonance. "Remember," the doctor instructed, "you'll need to channel your energy in the exact pattern we practiced. Too much power, and you could destabilize the crossing. Too little, and you won't complete the transition." Naruto nodded, dressed in his original orange jumpsuit for the first time since arriving, freshly cleaned and repaired by UA's support department. "I've got it. The vestiges will help guide the energy flow." All Might stepped forward, placing a massive hand on Naruto's shoulder. "Safe journey, young Uzumaki. Know that you'll always have a place here at UA." "I'm counting on it," Naruto replied with a grin. "This isn't goodbye, it's more like see you in a few days." Midoriya approached next, his expression earnest. "I'll keep practicing that Rasengan technique you showed me. It might help with controlling my own power output. Just don't blow up the training room while I'm gone," Naruto teased, bumping fists with him. Yaoyorozu and Uraraka offered their own well wishes, followed by Aizawa's characteristically terse nod that somehow conveyed more than words could have. Finally, Naruto turned to Midnight, who stood slightly apart from the others. Their relationship was still new, not yet public knowledge, though the knowing glances from Aizawa suggested at least some had their suspicions. She approached, professional demeanor in place despite the emotions evident in her eyes. "Your dimensional passport," she said, handing him a small device. "It's keyed to your energy signature and will help you locate this specific anchor point for your return." "Thanks," he said, taking it and letting his fingers brush hers longer than necessary. Then, lowering his voice, he added, 3 days. "I promise." "I'll be here," she replied simply, the words carrying weight beyond their surface meaning. Naruto moved to the center of the monitoring array, where the anchor point's energy felt strongest. Closing his eyes, he began channeling the precise combination of chakra and one for all that would activate the dimensional crossing. Green lightning mixed with blue chakra, spiraling around him in complex patterns as he followed the vestige guidance. The air shimmered, reality itself seeming to thin around him. With a final surge of perfectly balanced energy, Naruto opened the crossing. The last thing he saw before the dimensional shift claimed him was Midnight's face, confident, proud, and patiently waiting for his return. 3 days later, to the minute, the monitoring equipment at UA's anchor point activated. Energy readings spiked, reality wavered, and a familiar orange-clad figure materialized within the array. Naruto stepped forward, a broad smile lighting his face as he spotted the welcoming committee, larger than when he'd left, now including several government officials and additional faculty members. But his eyes sought only one person. Midnight stood at the front, professional hero costume impeccable, a smile she couldn't quite suppress breaking through her attempt at official demeanor. "Welcome back, Uzumaki," she said formally, mindful of the audience. "Successful mission?" "Very," he confirmed, equally formal but with mischief dancing in his eyes. "The Hidden Leaf Village sends its official greetings and has appointed me as their dimensional liaison." Surprised murmurs ran through the assembled officials. This was more than they had expected, formal recognition and diplomatic relations rather than merely personal connection. "They've also authorized preliminary exchange visits," Naruto continued. "Scientific, cultural, and eventually, training collaborations." Principal Nizu stepped forward, clearly pleased. "This is excellent news. We shall prepare appropriate accommodations and protocols." As the group moved toward the main building for debriefing, Naruto fell into step beside Midnight, close enough that their arms occasionally brushed. "Miss me?" he asked quietly. "Terribly," she admitted, matching his low tone. 3 days felt much longer than expected. "For me too," he confessed. "But I'm back now. And I brought something for you." Her eyebrow raised curiously. "Oh. Later," he promised with a smile. "When we don't have an audience." The small carved jade pendant would wait in his pocket until they were alone, a gift from Tsunade, the Hokage herself, who had somehow intuited the importance of this new relationship despite Naruto's attempts at casual description. The pendant was traditionally given to mark significant bonds, carrying protection charms worked into the stone itself. For now, it was enough to be back, walking beside the woman who had helped him find purpose in a strange world. Ahead lay challenges, diplomatic complexities, remaining threats from Kazuma's organization, the ongoing need to monitor the anchor points. But also possibilities, 2 worlds learning from each other, new friendships and alliances, and a relationship that defied dimensional boundaries. As they entered UA, Naruto felt a satisfaction deeper than any he'd known before. He hadn't just found a way home, he'd expanded the very definition of what home could mean. With connections in 2 worlds and the ability to move between them, his future had never seemed brighter or more full of potential. And walking beside him, occasionally brushing his hand with hers when no one was looking, was the person who had helped make it all possible. Some journeys didn't end with a return to where you started. Sometimes, they ended with the discovery that you could belong in more places than one, that home wasn't a single destination but a constellation of connections that transcended time, space, and even dimensional boundaries. For Naruto Uzumaki, interdimensional ninja and bearer of one for all, that discovery was just the beginning. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.